Hey, what's happening? What's up, gang? Nate, you are the 54th commenter. How did you do it? Venus is ready to rumble. Let us rumble. Spartan, welcome, welcome, my friend. Dolly, who wants to be friends? Not with Logan. Logan's gonna hack everybody's account. Kelly the Great, what is up? Davis. Hello, my friends. Am I drinking tonight? I am not drinking, just water. Drink a little tea, a little water, action. Oh my god, Hannah just hexed me. She's a witch. Fina says, right as I came out to smoke a bowl, destiny. Twas destiny. The Lord had convened us to be together. You and your marijuana, me and my microphony. It was meant to be. Hey, listen, works again. Nice, that's good. Maya with the twos. Hello, how's it going? It's going good, Maya. Good to see you. How are you doing? Cam's drinking some beers. Nice, nice. Chelsea's your first time on a live. Finally made it work in time. Nice. Well, welcome. As many know, we just kind of like chill out for a little while. There's a timer on the screen. Usually about 20 minutes, just to kind of let people stroll in. But then you will get to hear me recording, so there will be mistakes. Recording my stories live here with you. And that's what I do. That's what I do on my live streams. And everybody chills and hangs out and asks questions. And once in a while I go on long 20-minute rants about nothing, depending on how much I know. Holly with the 10 says, loving the consistent streaming, my friend. Thank you, Holly. I've been doing my best. Been doing my darndest, I would say. If there's a, on the scale of how hard you're trying, I'm certainly right up there at my darndest. Perfect timing. Who became a full-grown pizza? Bleach Main became a full-grown pizza. Thank you, Bleach Main, and welcome to the Buttersock cult. The cult of Rooney. Cult of personality. Cam. What up, Cam? With the 2. Thumbs up, glasses on, smiles out. That's what I like to see. Big smiles all around. Just take your teeth and go, I'm smiling, everybody. I'm smiling. Do you like my smile? That's why I like to go to people up in stores. I come real close to their face, pull my mask down, and say, do you like my smile? Oh my god, Kelly the Great with the $6.65 is so close. If only a penny more, but it's not the devil's time yet. Not quite. Though 2020 would lead you to believe that we are getting there, my goodness. Cult of Personalities on Guitar Hero. That's awesome. I love that song. Like Mussolini in Stalin. Or whatever they say. I don't know. Cult of Personality. Cult of Personality. Cult of Personality. B says, if I'm not using your voice to sleep, I'm listening to your narrations while I engage in artistic shenanigans. Dang. You should join the Discord so you can show off your artistic shenanigans, or tag me on social media. I would love to check those out. Do I get sore throats from reading? Once in a while. Especially this is kind of a lengthier, very girthy and lengthy stream we're probably gonna have here. It's got like 11 stories. So You guys might hear if you submitted a camping trip story, guys. Be sure to shout out if that one is yours that you have submitted to the channel. Bridget Jones with the $5 says my body is ready. So is mine, Bridget. Mine's also very hairy. Hope that's not a problem for anybody as we move forward. Bridget Jones. The name reminds me of Bridget. It was that one movie with, was it Bridget Jones' Diary? Let's look it up. Bridget Jones. Yeah, it was Bridget Jones' Diary. So you got the Bridget. Have you seen that movie? It's from 2001, and then 2004, and then Bridget Jones's Baby was in 2016, which I think Bridget Jones, the movie character, had kind of fallen out of hype by 2016 because I did not see that advertised, but I remember seeing it. I remember seeing that advertised quite a bit on like kids' televisions shows, and I kind of despised it. Like as a kid, like seeing like a late 20s to 30 something woman and her, you know, sexual shenanigans. I don't know why, as like a small little boy, that just like infuriated me seeing that come on. I was like, Jesus Christ, I just want to watch some Ed, and Eddie. God damn it! Get this bitch off the screen. I don't give a fuck. I would say those same things, and I would get spanked. Immediately spanked. Not by Bridget Jones, though. Which is unfortunate. Just Say Chill Vibe says, I always love your voice, my man. No homo. Hey. All the homo. We welcome it. Shower me in the homo. I'm just kidding. But thank you very much. Hannah took a sleeping pill, so we will see how long this... Uh-oh. Is that a Benadryl, or is that one of the hardcore ambience? I always thought a cool name. I almost feel like I should have named myself Ambien or something to do with Ambien. That would have been interesting, but I guess, I don't know. What should I have named my channel, guys? Do you think Let's Read's a good name for a channel? Should I change it now at over 600,000 subscribers? Is it too late? Yeah, Fry would yell at the screen. Be gone, thought. Michaela, thank you. Jazz Vibes, Spotify, bro. Nice, yeah. Did you guys hear Joe Rogan is going solely over to Spotify? And that was interesting to me because I don't know. I thought Joe Rogan was doing quite well on YouTube. I think he had like 8 million subscribers or something like that. And now he's just doing a big $10 million. Was it a 10 million or 100 million? That's a big change in number, I know, but keep your name, but add ambiance to it. Let's read it. Ambiance. But yeah, Joe he got like 100 million. Dude, that's nuts. Imagine getting, what if I went exclusively to Spotify, guys? Would you follow me over there? Do you think Spotify would give me 100 mil? Do you think it would give me even 1 mil for the exclusive rights to Let's Read's reedy spooky stories? It's interesting, though. I mean, at this point, I guess Joe Rogan's one of those things where it's all like word of mouth. Like, everyone here knows who Joe Rogan is. They've watched one of his interviews. They've laughed at one of the memes of him talking about, you know, DMT, chimps. Venus, you follow me on Spotify? Thank you. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, these stories are also, they don't get there till quite a while later. So you're always going to see them first on YouTube. But I also have a podcast where I post the stories, and it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and pretty much anywhere you listen to them. So it's just called the Let's Read podcast. Very, very original. You were asking earlier if you'd still give us love if you ever got contracted earlier. I think so. I mean, like, you guys would still be my audience, presumably, heading over to a larger platform. But I mean, I'm surprised someone like Mr. Nightmare hasn't started like some sort of podcast or whatever. Like, I swear to God, like, I just like to imagine like Mr. Nightmare like uploads his videos like accidentally sometimes. Doesn't actually check if there's anybody else who reads stories, doesn't check his views, just like throws together a thumbnail and is like, oh fuck dude, I gotta go to work, I'm gonna be late, man. And just like throws it up. But sometimes I just feel like he's just so nonchalant about it. He's like, alright, I guess I'll post once a year, and oh yeah, by the way, here's 2 videos. It's funny. Oh yeah, smash that motherfucking like button. Denise, you don't know who Joe Rogan is. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Joe Rogan is kind of a dum-dum. His head looks like a thumb. Like if you did the thumbs up and you painted Joe Rogan's face on it, that would be Joe. He not very smart. Mr. Nightmare's background music actually freaks you the frick out. Yeah, I don't even remember. Doesn't he use the same music all the time, or not? I honestly, if I was him, I feel like, I mean, I'm already doing most of what I set out to do as far as like trying to find people to do, thumbnails, and like Robin's been a huge help, like a massive help. Like he saved my butt here, where we're kind of like a co-squad. But his computer was down, we got that up and running again, and then he helped me out with, on Monday there's going to be, you probably guys are very excited for an advertisement for ExpressVPN. So you guys will be most likely seeing that Monday. And Robin fucking, banged that editing out like super quick, like on a dime's notice. On the turn of a dime. Did you ever see a dime turn in the middle of the street? That's how fast. Alec Vega with the 2 says, hey man, Joel party alive and ready to drink up. Yeah. Yeah. Alec, what is good? Who's in this Joel party? I want to know. I need to know more about them. Is it... We know Alec. Alec is the star of the show, but we need to know more of the cast and characters, the supporting crew. Who is they? Joe Rogan is how I learned celebrities. Does anyone know if he is going to take down all his videos? That's what I was wondering. Like, does he... Maybe it's like a transitionary deal. Like, once he makes it to like a year, of being on Spotify, he'll just like take them down. But honestly, some people say it was like for censorship, because like there's certain things that like Joe Rogan, is obliged by YouTube to like not talk about, which is unfortunate. But some people say it's related to censorship, but I think it might have something to do with that $10 million he might be getting, winkety wink. Because I think that's about enough for me to shut the fudge up. You hear that, government? You know how much you gotta pay me. And they're like, oh, Joel. Oh, me, Monsieur Joel, we do not have to pay you a single cent. We can put a bullet in your skull. Oh my gosh. Jeez. Alright, I'll chill. In Mr. Nightmare's earlier works, he changed songs between stories, but now he mainly uses one song. Yeah, sometimes it's you kind of get like, you kind of find like a cookie cutter format, which I definitely do, but I do like the one good thing is working with Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, who I use most of my dark ambient music from. I'll utilize, since he's so prolific and puts out so much dark ambient content all the time. It's, you know, it's always easy to just like catch another track, throw it in there, you know, level it off a little bit, see where it fits, and then you're good to go. I heard Spotify's going to advertise his podcast on YouTube. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, everybody's looking for exclusives. You got PewDiePie signed back in like early May here. Looks like he signed a big deal to stream exclusively on YouTube. Isn't it funny how the turns have tabled, you know? It was like PewDiePie was the demon of YouTube for about a week or whatever. And now YouTube is saying, please, PewDiePie, be our personal little baby cakes. But no, I'm sure that'll be fun. I never watched any of PewDiePie's streams prior. I know he did some when it first came out, and I think that's kind of what got him in trouble a little bit, but may or may not have been what got him in trouble. But yeah, I'm curious what he's going to do now. The thing with YouTube is like when you sign in, when I do sort of like a user interface comparison between when I do a user interface comparison but to how when I sign into Twitch, you know, you go into Twitch and you just see it. It's like you can click browse, or you can just see all the big games that are streaming right now. You can click the game and then you can see who's the, you know, the top dogs or whatever, or you can you can do random ones too. And with YouTube, obviously it's built most of its like content around like videos, of which Twitch does not have that. But like as far as streaming goes, I feel like YouTube needs more of like a user interface that's very similar to that, but just like when you get into your main page of YouTube, there needs to be like a really apparent option, like a really apparent option with like a blinking red live logo that says like click here for live streams or something, and then it just like takes you to, you know, a very well organized, you know, situation for that. Because I mean, it's not like YouTube asked me what I'm going to label my, you know, like what would I even label this as? Do you think it would even be a big topic? You know what I mean? Like there's, you know, Twitch has like just chatting or whatever, but like what would be mine? Like just reading? Because I definitely do just chat quite a bit on here, like I'm doing right now. He does streams but don't have the energy to watch them. Yeah, I feel like he would do them in the middle of the day, which would be kind of a weird time sometimes to just chill and watch, but I guess it would be fun too. Spread I have it, this melatonin kicking in, baby. Well, hey, that's perfect timing because we about to kick off these stories here in another 2 minutes. Guys, thanks again for being here. Hello, Lils. Hi, Joel. I'm listening to you from under the car I'm fixing. Oh, shit. Getting down and dirty, getting those fingers oily. I like it. Maybe you can teach me a thing or two. I don't know shit about cars. I don't know shit about shitty shit. What has been your favorite drink during quarantine? Well, you know, I don't sip on alcohol too often. And so that's, you know, for me, I guess I could say Diet Dr. Pepper Cherry, you know what I mean? Also, I've been drinking a little bit of, did I throw it out? A little diet tonic water. I'm all about the diet, it seems. But for my birthday stream, which is going to be June 4th, Thursday, June 4th, be there. Probably around this time, hopefully maybe a little bit earlier, so I don't completely black out. But I'm going to be taking, I'm going to set increments of donations, and for every increment of donation we reach, I will take a shot of this peanut butter whiskey that I had recently purchased. I'm going to let it sit on my shelf and just marinate for a bit. Maybe let the oils separate. I don't really know what you do with it, but so that'll be my first time drinking in quite a while. So you guys are going to see quite a loopy-doopy Let's Read. Also attempting to record stories for you as well for the Friday video, so stay tuned for that. Follow me on social media to be kept up to date. Savannah with the 2 says, what up? I'm back from the spoopy shiz. Oh shit, what was the spoopy shiz? That sounds spoopy. And thank you for the 2. Alex E with the 2 says, we fitting to go crazy, Joseph. Ah, shit. We fitting these pants, though. It'd be funny to say somebody like, yo, we fitting to do this? And like, man, you barely fit in your pants. Write that diss down. Everybody write that down. Alec with the 2 says, it's my work buddies working together for 5 years. Nice. That's awesome. Hopefully drinking on the job, I presume. K Barbie with the 2. Thank you, Barbie. And B McQueen with the 5 says, I'll start tagging you in the art I make while I listen to your narrations. Nice. That would be dope. I'd love to see what kind of products my voice can bring. Alright guys, we have chit-chatted quite a bit. And I'm going to close my window. Because my town don't know how to be quiet. And we will be switching over to the dark ambiance of Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse. If I can find it. This song's good though. I just love I've been playing the same song for the opening for the past couple streams and I don't mind it. It's like an hour long and I do really enjoy just the variation in it. Okay. Where are my downloads? I got to find them. Oh, there it is, Iron Cthulhu. Always going now. Streams, I guess, is where I don't deviate too much in regards to music, just because. Oh, perfect. It's starting to zone out a little bit. There it is. Turn that up turn that up to a Chad. One Chadley. We'll switch over to the reading screen. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Kelly C with the 5 Canadian maple syrup. Let's get it, baby. Let's go. Whoa, another Canadian. Aria Nozami with a 5 Canadian maple syrup bug says, let's read live right on time for my late night drawing session. Perfect. That's so cool. I've been really seeing like a commonality between a lot of people in their usage of my voice to either sleep or draw, which is pretty dope. Smoochum 302, I love that name with the 5 says, love your voice. Can you say Michaela? I've seen Michaela written in like so many varying fashions where sometimes it's crazier than Elon Musk's baby name spelling. That's his baby's name. Ash Hodge has become a full-grown pizza and a member sock of the butter, a member of the Butter Sock Call. Thank you, Ash. Everybody say hello to Ash. And Sugar Mills, welcome back. Thank you for the 10. I've been meaning to donate for a while, but I only recently got a job and got paid. Nice. Well, congratulations on that, and thank you for passing your spoils over to me. I do appreciate it. Hope things are going well with that new job. Nick, how old am I? I will be 30 in June, believe it or not. You know, I need to start saying that with, like, I gotta brag about it. Dude, I'll be 30! I'm gonna be 30! Ah, yeah! Fucking yeah! I'm fucking 30, yeah! Honestly, I'm pretty stoked about it. I think 30 is gonna be sick. I'm sure that there's, over time, gonna be some potential, you know, joint issues of sorts that might catch up to me, but I stay pretty active. I've been trying to eat healthier lately, and wait, rest in peace XAA12. He's not, the baby's not sick, is it? I hope not. Or maybe just rip as in like we dissed him. I hope. Nora, you're gonna be 34 on June 21st. Nice. But yeah, usually people see me, they think it's I'm a mid-20s looking fella, but I guess that's kind of what I am anyways, so not really that impressive. Dirty 30s, right? Yeah. We're going to get real dirty. Just like we get dirty into these stories here. Or into these dirty stories. Oh, the baby isn't sick, but his name can't be legal. Honestly, I wondered to a degree if this whole baby situation was literally just Grimes attempting to promote her music as much as in the most roundabout narcissistic fashion. Or let me just DM this billionaire genius right quick. Oh, I guess we're dating. Oh, hey guys, we're dating. Everything's trending on Twitter. Now I'm getting a lot of attention. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm also pregnant, and our baby is named after the sound a fax machine makes. You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, I'm sure they have a nice relationship. Even though I saw a tweet from Mr. Elon who was saying, Grimes is mad at me. I'm selling all of my houses. I will own nothing. Nothing of mine will be owned. I'm selling Mars. Who wants to buy Mars? Nate the Great with a 5 says, is it weird that I listen to your stories while playing GTA 5 constantly? No, yeah, dude, GTA 5, holy shit, that game's been around since... I remember starting working at the hospital, meeting some friends there, and then being so stoked in 2013 to go get... Was it 2013? Yeah, it was 2013 in September, August or something, and going to get Grand Theft Auto 5 at Walmart at midnight. That was sick as fuck, dude. And when I got that game, it definitely blew me away for sure. But yeah, it's crazy to think that game is just still popping after all this time. Goddamn, you'll be 20 next year. You act like you're 14 half the time. I still act like I'm 14. Shit. I guess I do see a big difference between my 30-year-old self and 20 to a degree, but I still enjoy the same shit. You know what I mean? For the most part. I feel like, do you ever kind of feel as if though movies and narratives and all this kind of stuff shape what you perceive your life is going to be? You know what I mean? And it very heavily seems to focus around your 20s to 30s, or teens, 20s, and 30s is where movies focus. Probably because those are the most attractive individuals within society that Hollywood can superficially hone in on. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I feel I've said this before, but not a lot of movies kind of focus on life, as in the aging process and things like that, and it's kind of frustrating because I feel like it should, or maybe the age demographic between teens to early 30s is just the most easily manipulated to go purchase shit, and that's why they focus in on that. I don't know. I don't do the market research, but Nate with a 5 says your stories help with the grind on GTA 5 online. Not gonna lie, nice. Yeah, I didn't really get to experience the grind too much on there, but doing taking on waves and waves of enemies was a lot of fun when I was doing co-op with friends. Sarah Holmwood, say hi to me. Hello. People say 47 isn't old, and at this point I don't believe 47 is old anymore. Because I have a friend at the gym who just turned 50, and he literally is the most kick-ass dude ever. He still competes in CrossFit stuff, and he beats my ass in workouts all the time. You would never have any idea. Granted, he's kind of a genetic freak, but he just shows you that you are only as old as you allow yourself to be. Tell that to a dead body. All right, let's kick this off. This was 1998 when this happened. An old friend of mine asked me to go camping with him. I hadn't been since I was about 12, so I agreed. It sounded fun, and I was excited all week leading up to the trip. I didn't get much sleep the night before because of it, and he picked me up just after 5 a.m., and we drove the 100 miles to the park. I managed to get a little bit of sleep, so I felt a little better when we arrived. Then he dropped the bomb on me. We still had to walk another 2 hours to the campsite. I tried to talk him into choosing one a little closer, but he swore I'd love it when we made it. Now, with a heavy heart, I followed him. The first half hour wasn't that bad. Most of it was all downhill. However, as more time passed, I became sluggish. Halfway there, we took a short break, but were back on the trail before I knew it. The second leg was a lot more uphill. It wasn't long until I was dragging again and not paying attention to where I was going. We arrived at a flat section, and I was relieved. My friend was in front and somehow missed the trap, but I didn't. All I remember was that 1 second, I was clomping along and hitting the ground. Whoops. What the fuck happened? Hey, Pam Elmore has become a full-grown pizza and a member sock. Member sock, I do it again. Member of the Butter Sock Call. Everybody say hello to Pam. Hello, hello. Thank you, Pam. Appreciate that. I was also thinking, I was like, I wonder if this, like, member thing, like, if I keep doing this for years and years, I wonder if, like, just based on sheer membership, if that would be, like, one thing that could keep me completely alive on YouTube, you know what I mean? Because everybody, like, after years of doing YouTube, eventually, like, kind of ponders to themselves the longevity of it, you know what I mean? And I was thinking, like, if right now I'm at, like, I think that was at about 100 members, which is pretty insane. I had no idea even 100 people came through and even did that, so thank you guys for that. But I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. All I remember was that 1 second, I was clomping along and hitting the ground the next. The contact with the bottom of the hole jolted me awake, and the rush of adrenaline masked most of the pain. As I stood up, my right leg buckled, and I dropped down into a sharpened stick jutting out below me. Apparently there were several more stakes in the bottom of the hole, but they had been knocked over, thankfully. When I looked down, I saw the bone sticking out of my shin. Instinctively, I pulled the stick from my leg, and pain made me even queasier than I already was. I looked up to get an idea of where I was and only saw blue sky edged by trees. I figured the hole was about 10 feet deep or more. It must have taken the idiots that dug it several days. I yelled up for my friend only to see his laughing face greet me over the edge. He didn't know the extent of my injuries at that moment, but when I told him, the laughing stopped and panic replaced it. I asked him what happened, and he told me it looked like some redneck poachers had dug some type of bear trap and I'd fallen into it. I assumed he could simply reach down and pull me out, but that didn't work. So next he attempted to reach me with a tree limb. This worked at first, but when I tried to stand up, the pain was far too severe. I couldn't put any weight on my right leg. It was obvious I wasn't getting out of the hole without some outside help. It was still early in the day, so I wasn't very concerned. I could hear my friend pacing around above me and freaking out, so I called up to him in a calm voice and told him to go get help. The ranger station was only a little over an hour back from where we came. He could easily get help and make it back with me. Whoops. Oh, there it is. Lost the sentence for a second. Smoochum302 has become a new member. Thank you, Smoochum. Michaela. Welcome to the Buttersock cult. I need to, I don't know. I might the brand recognition or whatever of a full-grown pizza is kind of confusing, but either way, you get the idea. I definitely need to. That'd be sick if you subscribed, you automatically got a shirt, that would be dope. Oh, you know what I forgot? Pradeep has a backpack he likes to lay on, and I do not have that down by my feet right now, which I feel like is going to cause him to be very commotion oriented, but that's alright, we should be good. He could easily get help and make it back to me with plenty of time before dark. Once he took off, I was left alone with nothing but the pain to occupy me. By now, it was coming in waves, and the accompanying nausea wasn't making it any better. Initially, I thought I could make a splint, but the moment I tried to tighten it down, I almost fainted. Leaving it alone seemed the wise decision. I put my head between my knees and waited for the sick, dizzy feeling to pass. Eventually, it did, and I tried to focus on other things. Singing worked for a while. That is, until I started hearing thunder and noticed the sky above me getting darker by the minute. Getting a little wet wasn't going to kill me, right? Perhaps I should have considered my circumstances before saying that. The rain was relatively light at first, but within minutes it was coming down in sheets. I was okay, until I began to notice the hole filling with water. My feet were already submerged by the time I realized I was in trouble. I clawed my way up the wall until I was standing, at least the best I was able, and started praying for it to stop. As the minutes passed, more of my body disappeared. After an hour, the storm began letting up and I could relax. The water level was only about halfway up to my shins, and I knew now if it continued at that rate, help would be here before it even reached my waist. Unfortunately, it was just a lull in the storm. Soon enough, the rain was sheeting down again. The only positive thing about it all was it had taken my mind off the pain in my leg. I tried to be upbeat, thinking back on funny jokes and movies. The next hour was the longest in my life. When help finally arrived, the rain had almost completely stopped. At the time the ropes pulled me out, the water was just below my belt. Thinking about drowning to death in a little hole out in the middle of nowhere still gives me the willies. Once I was out of the hole, the ride to the hospital went by pretty fast. After a surgery where I acquired some screws and a few plates, I was allowed to go home. The next 8 weeks on crutches would drag by, but I was happy to be alive, broken leg or not. We never got to make up for the lost trip, but I have taken my kids out camping a few times in the years since. While it's on my mind, I may give my friend a ring. We haven't seen one another in a few years, and a camping trip may be the best way to catch up. I'll just be sure to keep my eyes open this time.
Hey, listen!
Make sure to miss... Oh yes, Bridget Jones has become a full-grown pizza and a member of the Buttersock Cult. Thank you, Bridget. Everybody say hello to Bridget. Welcome, welcome. And Ron with the 5 says, late to the party, was playing guitar with my dad. Oh, nice. Holy shit. Jam sesh with Pops. That's pretty dope, actually. I respect that. I'm jealous. I think my dad played drums growing up, but he had never, we had never done any instruments or anything like that together. If the hole filled with water, wouldn't he be able to get out? I think it only filled up to about, like, his waist or something, so it kind of, like, gave him a sensation that he was going to drown or whatever, but he did not. Oh, we're at 400 people. Nice, guys. Keep clicking that like button if you haven't already. That would be sick. Lila says, I hope this question isn't too personal, but do you make all of your money from Patreon, or does YouTube pay you at all? Yeah, so YouTube is like my primary income. And Patreon, like, I want Patreon to be something that obviously you can do to support the channel, but I kind of wanted something to be given in return. So I thought the early access like made the most sense, having early access to the audio and that kind of thing. And I wish, like, with members here, like, I wish that there was something. I'm going to have to look into it more, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with, like, if you're members on other channels, like, do they offer something? Is there something, like, would I be able to also provide the early access via the member, the members scenario as well? You know what I mean? So if anybody's familiar with that, definitely DM me, let me know, because I would not mind getting into that with peeps or with you guys, because that's a solid amount of people that definitely deserve to be given something in return, and I really appreciate that.
Full-grown pizza.
And there's one right now, full-grown pizza and Gordman. Thank you, my friend. Welcome to the Buttersock cult. Hello, hello. My life growing up was far from good. Rather than constant physical abuse, although there was that too, my parents ignored me most of the time. Both had drinking problems. My mom only worked part-time so she could, as she said, be there for her kid. But she really spent the majority of her free time in a bottle or bed. My dad was the main breadwinner, working as a over-the-road truck driver. He was away most of the time, leaving me alone to take care of myself. Our apartment was on the edge of town, surrounded by miles of forest. As long as I can remember, I was entranced by those woods. It wasn't long before I was spending my days exploring them. My love of nature only grew from there. I soon realized neither of my parents were paying attention to my comings and goings, so I began camping out in the woods overnight, here and there just to see if I'd be missed. But as I figured, I wasn't. From there, I began spending weeks at a time camping throughout the vast forest. Sorry, that sounded a bit strange. For weeks I spent my time.
Hey,
From there,
listen.
I see, yeah. Joshua with the 5 says, how do I become a full-grown member pizza? Yeah, maybe someone in the chat can lead you there, but I do believe that there is a button somewhere maybe near the subscribe button where you would normally click subscribe, where it says you're subscribed, and it should say join, I do believe. And if you click join, that is how you do that. And if you do, thank you. And thank you for the 5. Thank you. From there, I began spending weeks at a time camping throughout the vast forest. We all know all good things must end, and one morning, I was caught walking out of the woods by my father. He just arrived back from time on the road. It was early, and he was livid to see his 12-year-old son walk out of the woods at 5 a.m. on a school day. In addition to tanning my hide, I got an earful from them both. This didn't stop me from returning, though. After laying low around home for a week, I waited for my dad to leave and my mom to drink. When I was sure she was asleep, I fled back to my real home. I would slip back early every morning prior to school without anyone noticing. It didn't take long for things to go back to the way they had been before. If I wasn't at school, I was out roaming the woods. I mentioned before I had a series of camps throughout the forest. Early on, I realized I was sharing my getaway with others. Among these interlopers were small groups of homeless people, probably way before I came along. They'd use the woods as a place to camp and drink, away from the prying eyes of the police and public. I made the mistake of staying in the same place too long on one occasion and almost got assaulted because of it. After that run-in, I moved my camps to the other side of the river. Some nights I would lurk in the shadows and watch them destroy themselves with drugs and drink. Many times, violence would break out, and this only reinforced my hate for them. I already saw enough of that at home, anyway. As the months passed, I moved deeper into the vast forest, always looking for a new place to explore. Summer came, and with it, more homeless. It wasn't long before they had their filthy little camps all over the woods. However, at that point, I was still safe if I stayed on my side. I was the only person who knew where to cross. River or not, my paradise would be taken away from me, once and for all, by these very same people. One hot summer afternoon, I was down on the banks getting water. I'd heard voices off in the distance, so was keeping my eyes peeled. I'd retrieved my water and was returning back to my camp when I heard a group of people arguing on the opposite side. Curious, I hid and watched. There was a raggedy tent set up, and next to it, 3 men and 1 female yelling at one another. They were far away from me, and... Whoopsies. Oh, Emily, your duck died today. What the heck? How'd that happen? I'm sorry to hear that. This is really sad. It was sad too. I was telling last stream about my buddy having to put his dog down, and it was like he got the dog during college and then kind of couldn't take care of it completely, so like it was something that he kept at his parents' house, and obviously it became the family dog, and pretty much spent most of his time in his dad's office with him, and I saw his dad yesterday when they were kind of like building this garden thing, and his dad was carrying around a rag, like a bit of a morning shawl or whatever you want to call it, like, and he just said that he's been crying for 3 days straight. I'm like, man, I definitely feel that. I remember whenever I lost my Doberman, it was hard to process, you know what I mean? Obviously it's not the same as people, but animals definitely hold a very different portion of our hearts, for sure. Ever seen the animated movie The Hobbit? I did, yeah, that one from like the 80s or 70s or something. That was rotoscoped, which was pretty sick. I think saw it because I was looking for movies that were rotoscoped, and I think they did an awesome job. They weren't too far away for me to make out much of what was said. They all looked like they were drunk, swaying around while they argued. I stayed around for about 10 minutes when one of the men hit another over the head with a beer bottle. The man staggered and fell to the ground. I waited for the man on the ground to move, but he didn't. The assailant then picked up a bag of... Whoops. Jenner's Bliss has become a full-grown pizza and a member of the Buttersock cult. Thank you, Jenner's Bliss. Thank you. Welcome. The assailant then picked up a big rock and threw it down on the man while the others just stood by and watched. He did this over and over, about 3 times, until he looked too exhausted to continue. I had to stifle a scream as I watched this horror unfold, and by now was too scared to move. The female then yelled something at the man and slapped him on the chest. He looked unfazed and instead just stared down at the mess he'd just made. After a minute of doing this, the others yelled something again at him, and they all ran away together. I could finally breathe, but still dared not move in case they returned. I stayed hidden for what seemed like hours before I decided they weren't coming back. I expected the man on the ground to get up, but now I know how stupid that was. I got the crazy idea in my head that I needed to get him help. Drunk bum or not, he was still a human, and I ran the entire 3 miles back to our apartment. For some reason, I was happy to see my father was home. I ran in, short of breath, and began yelling for my parents. I noticed them sitting together on the couch and ran up to them. My dad told me to shut up and then asked me what the matter was. I repeated the story of what I had just witnessed in the woods. Rather than getting help, my dad began yelling at me about defying him. My slurring mom soon joined in, and they both commenced to chewing me out a new a-hole. The worst part was when my mother accused me of making up stories to get attention. I denied this, of course, but she wasn't listening. The rest went the way it always did. My dad pulled off his belt and strapped me across. My dad pulled off his belt and strapped me across until I began crying, and he told me to shut up or give me something to cry about, as usual. It was clear to me the discussion was over. The man wasn't getting helped. After all, I was just a stupid kid. I crawled off to my bedroom and cried myself to sleep, as I had done so many times. My retreats to the woods had ended. I couldn't even leave the house without one of my folks going out. That's crazy. I couldn't leave the house without one of my folks, and going outside was out of the question. Not long after that, I was shipped off to live with my mom's dad because I'd become too much of my... Not long after that, I was shipped off to live with my dad because I'd become too much for my parents to handle. I expected life to be much as it had before, maybe even worse. After all, there had to be a reason why my mother was so messed up. I kept my guard up for a long time, waiting for the first beating to come. Instead, I would be given a life I could have never dreamed of. Grandpa Mac turned out to be a loving and patient man, the exact opposite of any adult I'd ever met before. The first time he asked me what I liked to do, I was speechless. No one ever cared to ask. I swallowed the knot in my throat and told him of my love for nature. Expecting the usual laughing and mockery, I braced, but instead his face lit up. He spent the next hour telling me of all the great memories he had of camping with his father. I knew then I had become the luckiest kid in the world. As soon as the spring came, we spent every day walking. At least this has a happy ending. As soon as the spring came, we spent every waking moment hiking the woods and parks throughout the country. The knowledge he passed on to me could fill a library full of books. Even though he's gotten too old for us to go out together, I still visit him on a regular basis and share all the amazing adventures I have been through recently. His body may be weak, but his mind is still as strong as ever. I owe that man. I owe that man a Coke. Medina just joined. Nice. This is story 2 of 11, so we are in it for the long haul. Alcohol, haul. Oh yeah, who's keeping track of mistakes? I owe that man more than I'll ever be able to repay, and he did everything just because he loved me. It still took me a good 3 or 4 years until I summed up the courage to tell him the story. Also, I expressed the guilt I felt for keeping it to myself all this time. I was unsure of how he'd react. At first, he sat quietly. A moment or two later, he sat up in his chair. Damn, I don't know why I keep messing up on this one. A moment or two later, he sat up in his chair and hugged me tightly. This confused me, and when he let me go, I asked him what I should do. His advice to me was to contact the police back home and share the story with him. After that, the responsibility was out of my hands, and I didn't need to be guilty ever again. Once I contacted them, I washed my hands of the guilt.
Hey, listen.
It's funny, yeah, my voice hasn't squeaked in a while, which is always interesting when it does. Air23 with the $2 says, $2 Eddie. I watch every stream, bro. Thank you, Air. Thank you, Eddie. $2 Eddie. Once I contacted them, I washed my hands of the guilt. Now that I've grown up, I realize my parents were at fault. I did what I should have. If they chose to say nothing, it was on them. I went off to college, and upon my return at Christmas, Mac let me know that the people responsible had been found, although all but the woman were dead. She shared the location of the man's body with detectives. They wanted to thank me for coming forward and helping them to solve this case after all these years. And with that, I moved on, leaving that terrible part of my life behind me. Until recently, with the death of my father, which seems to have dredged up all these old memories, I'd not thought of that part of my life in some time. My love for the woods and its creatures has grown into my livelihood. Now I get to travel all over, discovering and preserving the world's wild places before they are gone. Something I could have only dreamed of as a kid, trapped inside a run-down apartment in New Jersey. And without Mac's love, understanding, and teaching, none of it would have ever...
Hey, listen.
Sorry, I fucked that up. Asherella with a 5 says, one question, what you gonna do with all that junk inside that trunk? Junk equals bodies. Just keep cramming them in there. Eventually we'll have to turn them into juice, or probably run that car off of a bridge somewhere. Bury it in the mash. Yeah, we're already at 500 people, which is pretty wild. We're only in story 2. But yes, only 200 likes, guys. We need more likes. Pump those likes up, baby. Let's go. How does Friday look? Oh, it's, yeah, wait. Where would it be Friday? I guess it would be Friday across the pond. Anybody in Britain? Anybody in Britain? Is it Friday for you yet? And without Mac's love, understanding, and teaching, none of it would have ever happened. Air 23 with the 3 buckaroos says the streams be chill late night vibes. Hell yeah, brother. Thank you for the 3. $3. Make me holla. For show. I wonder if I still have more tea. I do, just a tad more tea. A mistakes counter on screen. That would be good, actually. And then I just had to press like a hotkey or something to make it come up or something of that in nature. I'm not really sure if anybody's familiar with how like streams work and all the widgets and smidgets, because I use Streamlabs OBS. So I don't know if anybody else streams or uses that at all, but that'll give you an idea of how it kind of all works. Sweet or unsweet? It's unsweet, but it's just, it was like a hot tea when I first started. Now it's a kind of a gross cold tea. But I definitely prefer the taste of tea over coffee, though I do like coffee when it's hot. There's always a point in my day where I hit the coffee first and it suddenly fills me with such a euphoric sensation that I feel as if though everything is going to be A-OK. Jennifer with the 2 says, always look forward to your videos. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Bridget Jones with the 5 buckaroonies. Thank you, Bridget. Says, weird fact about myself. Weird fact. Well, you know, when I was younger, I think people would ask that. And growing up, my grandparents on my mom's side always had a farm that was housed to some pretty strange creatures. It was a little bit reminiscent of Joe Exotic to a degree, where they had tigers and monkeys and all sorts of like really weird wildlife that you could go visit. And you know, since my grandfather's passing, all of that kind of stuff over the past while has since been sold off. But yes, you can call me Joel Exotic because I grew up around some big cats, baby. Yeah. With all my husbands. Actually, I haven't even seen the show, honestly. Okay. Red Dose says, weird fact about me, I don't look in mirrors anymore because I'm always so confused by my reflection. Whoa, that's a two sentence scary story. Steve B uses Kratom. Nice. I tried Kratom recently, put it in the tea, and it definitely mellows you out for sure. My friend got it. I was kind of curious if Kratom got put as like a Schedule 1, which would be so stupid. It's like anything that can compete with the alcohol, you know, monarchs of the Bush family, or the, you know, all of those like huge families that control your alcohol addiction. It always seems as if though like whatever substance comes out that can't be owned by big pharma or, you know, alcohol, big alcohol, whatever you want to call it, gets put on like Schedule 1, which is bullshit. But it's nice to see that when it comes to marijuana, it's definitely has gripped the nation in the past 10 years in a manner that's starting to kind of free it up. Obviously, people in Colorado and the western states have experienced it more than various other states, but around here, I believe it's still just sort of like medicinal, though I think it's decriminalized in my area, since so many students would always get caught with it, and then their lives would be kind of fucked. And then obviously the college starts to see that dipping into their funds a little bit, where students would maybe lose their scholarships or lose their ability to go to school, and then take out more loans to fulfill. So I think they figured that'll old spiel out with the local municipality, if you know what I mean. He volunteers, my husband. You got to get in the big cat cage, though. Would I want to do a collab with Mr. Nightmare? For sure, yeah. Mr. Nightmare, that would I think be really cool. Would really help the channel, honestly, like to get my, because it's crazy sometimes to kind of look at certain people's channels, like I feel like views wise, as far as like scary stories go, it's like, yeah, Mr. Nightmare's the tippity top tier individual out there. And then if you were able to get like a story on there and you actually sounded good, you know what I mean? I think that could definitely bring in a lot of subs. Starting my own harem of husbands. We'll just, I guess, what else are you gonna do with a cult? You know, you gotta have a little harem. Do a collab with Mr. Creeps. I actually have done a collab with Mr. Creeps where it's like a story about like a mermaid, so I'm one of the characters in that. So it's a little bit more like dialogue rather than like me actually narrating the stories, but it was pretty sick. Yeah, Mr. Creeps doing really good on here. The argument started the same way every time. You'll never catch me dead in a national park. They're full of nothing but fat tourists and RVs. I'm from the old school, and I like it that way. Old school was a kind description of how he camped. If it was made from anything other than canvas or leather, he considered it newfangled junk. My mother tried on multiple occasions to introduce things as common now as nylon tents, but he wasn't having it. He'd rather carry that big, musty wall tent everywhere we camped, and don't get me started about the stinking cans of kerosene that always leaked all over everything. He was certainly a man born too late. The term roughing it had to have... Oh, I see. Whoops. Air23 with the 3 says $3. My name's Eddie. I collect Jordans. Air. Oh, nice. That's pretty sick. How many do you have? I've seen some, YouTubers who have quite the collection. Do I respond on Twitter? Yeah, I do, usually. Usually I'll definitely like a post or reply below. I ain't got nothing else going on. The term roughing it had to have been coined with him in mind. We continued to suffer through his archaic ways of experiencing the outdoors until the near death of my younger brother showed him the error of his ways. Throughout the early 80s, my dad would drag us out to the National Forest. The National Forest. I gotta get rid of that Scottish accent. Throughout the early 80s, my dad would drag us out to the National Forest during Thanksgiving. The weather was relatively mild for this time of year, and the forest was beautiful. I can still smell the pine trees. These retreats always seemed to coincide with the hunting season for some reason. I remember hearing Dad used to hunt before meeting our mom. I think she forbade him from doing it anymore, so this was his way of sticking it to her. Either way, gunshots near camp were a common sound. I guess because our parents grew up with very little oversight, me and my brother Mike's childhood was the same. No one considered that it may be dangerous with a bunch of trigger-happy guys around to let 2 young boys play in the woods alone. It was normal for the 2 of us to leave camp at dawn, play all morning until lunchtime, then go back out until supper. We've been doing this as long as I can remember, and no one batted an eye. On one specific Thanksgiving, we had been running and crawling through the underbrush all day. This was during the time G.I. Joe and Rambo movies were at the height of their popularity. Mike and I loved dressing up in our camouflage clothes and playing war. Mike's birthday had been just a few days before, and he got a pair of G.I. Joe walkie-talkies. Looking back, they were junk, but we loved them. After lunch, we returned to the woods. I can't remember exactly what I was doing at that moment, but I know Mike was trying to sneak up on me. I was sitting on a fallen tree and suddenly heard a loud bang, quickly followed by a whistling go by my head. I dropped flat on my stomach and waited for another shot. I wasn't sure what was happening, but something told me to stay where I was. No more than 30 seconds had passed when I heard faint moaning in the distance. Since Mike was missing at that second, I called him on the walkie-talkie. No answer came, but I heard a new noise. This sounded like my name, so I called to Mike again. No answer. Now I was getting scared. Without any other ideas, I yelled out his name. I told him the game was over and he needed to answer me. I wasn't sure if he was still trying to trick me or was in real trouble. I listened very intently, but nothing but the faint rustle of leaves could be heard. I walked in the direction of the rustle and listened again. Nothing. So I called out again. The rustling repeated, followed by another moan. I ran in that direction about 20 yards and stopped. The rustling came again, just to my right and very close. I couldn't see anything, so I dropped my stomach and scanned the ground. About 3 feet away, I spotted the bottom of a Nike. I knew it had to be Mike's. I ran to the bush he was laying under. The sight I came upon still breaks my heart to this day. There was Mike, staring up at me with a terrified look on his face. Just under his arm was a hole with blood. Oh, shit. Jesus is in the chat. What's up, Jesus? Jesus is my homeboy. Do a collab with... Yeah, everybody. I've definitely done a collab with quite a few of these people before. I think with Unit 522 I did a collab related to, like, playground stories, I think. I forget. I think that's still up on the channel. Hey, some people want Let's do a collab with Swamp Dweller. I think Swamp Dweller is actually in one of my more recent videos, like a subscriber stories video. I had him at the end. Just under his arm was a hole with blood pouring out of it. It shocked me, but I did my best to play it cool. I didn't want to make him any more scared than he already was. Had I been older, I may have known better how to move him, but I just reached down and scooped him up in my arms. He was too heavy for me, but I was going to do my best to save him. I made it about 100 yards before I had to set him down. He must have been in considerable pain. He asked me to leave him there and go get help. His voice sounded very weak, and I almost broke into tears right there. Somehow, I held myself together and ran another mile or so without stopping. Mom must have known something was wrong. She yelled out in a panicked voice for my father. My dad came out of the tent, took one look at me and said, "How bad is it?" I was too winded to speak. I just pointed toward where I'd set him down. Whoops. I just pointed toward where Why does that sound so weird? Toward where I'd set him down. I just pointed him toward where I'd set him down, and he took off. By the time I caught up, Dad was already picking him up and headed for camp. The entire ride to the hospital, Mom kept talking to him, telling him to hold on. I rode in the back seat, holding my shirt against the wound the whole way there. What would have normally been at least a 30-minute drive took us just under 20. Dad handed off... Made quite a few mistakes here. Dad handed him off to the doctors. They had him in surgery within the hour, and the next 3 were a long, living nightmare. More shocked at what had happened to my brother, I was in amazement at how calmly my parents were handling everything. Having become a parent since, I realized they were far from calm, but they handled it well either way. It was after midnight when the doctor gave us the news. They had been touch and go for a long time. I only found out much later that Mike had died more than once during surgery, but Mike had a good chance of recovering completely. The police, having been notified of the shooting, arrived soon after dawn to question us. Now that the urgency of the situation had passed, I broke down several times during my recollection. That was the first time I came to grips with the possibility that I could have been shot myself. Mike was going to be in the hospital for a few weeks, so my parents got a hotel room nearby. I think my dad considered staying at the camp, but after a very short discussion with my mom, he decided against it. The detectives handling the case kept us up to date, but as late as the day Mike was discharged, no names had been connected to the case. The most widely held theory is that a poacher mistook the movement in the bushes for a deer and fired. It accounts for the lack of red flags during the search through our hunting licenses. Whoops. It accounts for the undead teenager with the 6 Canadian maple syrup dollars says, "What's your favorite cryptid?" Oh, if you have one. If not, favorite hobby. I would say for sure, I think Bigfoot. Definitely Bigfoot. He is just, he's big, he's got feet, he's stinky, and he seems like kind of nice, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard of people saying they've had aggressive encounters with Bigfoot, but I've also heard a lot of people saying about their experiences with Bigfoot have been kind of like oddly friendly in some fashion, where the Bigfoot knows how many family members you have and like will make like little dolls, like little almost like stick figurines that look like people that represent all the members of the family, and they'll put that on your doorstep or some shit like that, or like on a tree stump. And it's very creepy, but at the same time it almost seems kind of wholesome. Wholesome Bigfoot. Karen Hare with the 2 says, "I have had a crazy day. Happy to hear your voice." Oh, Karen, what's going on? Either way, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Also heckin' blurry, which is, oh yeah, Bigfoot is quite blurry. He's too fast. He's fast as fuck, boy. He's fast as fuck. Cecil with the 10 buckaronis. Thank you, Cecil. Thank you. Watch Harry and the Hendersons if you like Bigfoot. Yeah. He's a whole... That'd been funny if, like, he wasn't a nice Bigfoot and he just, like, ripped them all to pieces. It accounts for the red flags during the search through hunting licenses. It wasn't the first time this happened, and sadly won't be the last. Mike was one of the fortunate ones. 34 years have passed since then, and nobody has been decisively connected to the shooting. Mike did make a full recovery and went on to start his own business and family, just like any other normal person. Something great did actually come out of this mess. We never returned to the National Forest, and even better, Dad decided with all of those fat tourists with their RVs being around, it was a safer environment for he and his family. Between 12 and 17, I got to spend my holidays in awesome places like Yosemite and the Grand Canyon. This is the way I had always thought camping should be, peaceful and quiet, and I'm almost positive Mike would agree with me. Yeah, he's the Flash. That would be sick. I remember, it's so funny. I have like a Bigfoot video on my channel. You guys, I don't know. I mean, I've had quite a few like Bigfoot readings, or narrations of experiences people had. But there's a Bigfoot like video footage, like 23 of the most authentic Bigfoot videos. I'm still surprised at that video. It's like one of my best ones. You know what I mean? Could have went down the path of Chills, man. Could have went down that path. The one thing, I don't know how Chills does, like, how does he get permission for all of, like, the footage, like, so quickly, you know what I mean? Like, how does that all work? Or maybe he just, like, posts it and kind of, like, hopes for the, like, credits them and, like, hopes for the best or some shit, but... And also, how do you know, if you're getting it from the source or all that kind of shit, so... But, yeah, there's a Bigfoot video on my channel that you guys should watch if you ever get a chance to. And it's, one of my favorite videos. My voice, I talk quite a bit slower in that, where I talk very, very kind of annoying. And, but yeah, there's this one video of like Bigfoot you can see in the way distance, and he's just like, just belting it across this like, almost like a cliffside / like definitely like a huge incline. And, I don't know, it's just crazy. Fair use. Yeah, fair use is kind of a tricky thing. Because, fair use is usually described as kind of just using like 7-second clips of stuff, but most of the time, like, the videos are used kind of in their entirety on those types of videos. So, like, maybe not. Maybe the most of the videos are just short anyways, and it's like not a big deal. And the fact that he puts credit in them, like, people are just like chill about it. They see like a channel with multi-million, subscribers, and their video got involved in it. I'm sure, like, unless they're like a big network or a YouTuber type scenario, they're not really going to care too much or whatever. But fair use is like a really gray area because it really only describes like people in a court case, but nobody on YouTube is going to sue each other, but they will like copyright strike you, and like if you get 3, it kind of really puts you in a precarious position of communicating with the people that gave it to you. They do eventually fall off, but it can definitely put your put your channel in a scenario that's just a lot more annoying than you kind of want to be in. You guys are doing your top tier narrations list. Jessica with the 10 says thank you. You're welcome, Jessica. Thank you for the 10. Appreciate that. Gracias. Thought of doing audiobooks for authors. I thought about it. I was on this website for Audible called ACX. So if you guys are narrators who want to make $1, you can go on ACX and put out your auditions there, and people will find you to like read their self-published stories and stuff like that. And I think it pays decently, but it just would take up too much time for me, and I just don't know if I have time to do that, So perhaps in the future I could, but right now, like, YouTube and the podcast are like my main adventures in the world of reading. Nikki's gonna smoke some ganja. Smoke the ganja, man. You're dying of hunger. There are people in the living room. Well, are you gonna eat the people in the living room? What the heck? However, you have not lived if you haven't heard Joel and Jensen in a Chills Off. Oh, God. Yeah, in the Discord. I saw a really funny, like, Chills video. I put it on my my meme Instagram. If you guys haven't followed that, please do. Follow my normal Instagram, which is @letsread.official. And then Twitter is Let's Read Creepy. You'll find me on there either way if you need to, but kept up to date on everything there. But I also have a meme page on Instagram called @hornycomputer, and there was somebody did like a Chills video about like there was a rat boy who came out of my Nintendo DS, and now the rat boy wanders the lands of New York City. It was just so funny. I don't know why. Like Jensen does a bunch of like Chills parodies that are just so funny because of the shit that he thinks of is just hilarious. Hilarious. I'm not really sure who came up with the idea first, but by day's end, we'd planned the destination and date. Although I'd been camping many times before, I'm almost positive neither Chuck nor Glenn ever had. They had come into the family late in life, and my real dad had already died by then. He had been the guy who loved camping. My stepfather, not so much. Don't get me wrong, he's a great man, but the outdoors has never been his deal. The list of supplies needed for the trip was compiled and followed to the letter, including the 4 cases of beer, perhaps the most important of all the goods. We'd loaded up and were ready to leave at dawn the next morning. As we headed out, we had no idea what lay ahead of us, and how it would affect our connection to one another, a connection we once believed to be unbreakable. The 3-hour drive was uneventful and quiet. I was pleased to see how dry the surroundings were. Fire starting, well, not hard for me, wasn't my strong suit, and I knew neither of my brothers had ever burned more than a cigarette. I brought along some lighter fluid just to be safe, although I never ended up needing it. While I worked on the fire, Chuck and Glenn put their knowledge that they had learned... Whoops. A vape box. Now that rat boy is my boyfriend. He's one of my many wives. Asherella, you have a top 5 horror narrations channel y'all should watch. Yeah. If you guys want to hear Asherella's top 5 horror narration channels, you best go check her out. While I worked on the fire, Chuck and Glenn put the knowledge they had learned watching YouTube videos to use, setting up the tent. I had purposely got the easiest tent I could find, yet it still took the better part of an hour before they had it up. The fire was already roaring by the time they joined me. I had buried the potatoes in the coals, prepared the steaks to be cooked, and was well into my second beer by then. The steaks didn't take long, and by dark, we were sitting down to a delicious meal. After dinner, the real camping began. I had chosen to camp out in the middle of nowhere on purpose. I knew we'd become obnoxious and loud when we got drunk, and more importantly, I like to make big bonfires and turn my music up loud. You can't do that with others around you. That evening turned out to be a blast. We blew through 2 cases and didn't pass out until dawn. It was something I needed to do for a long time. And despite the hangover, I resolved then and there it was something we were going to do much more often. When I finally drugged myself from my sleeping bag, it was well past noon. Chuck and Glenn were already awake, sitting next to a cold fire. They both had a beer in their hand and looked happy to see me. I asked them what was up with the fire. I asked them what was up with the fire. Isaac Robles has become a full-grown pizza and a member of the Buttersock Call. Thank you, Isaac. Everybody say hello to Isaac. Give him your love and your respect and your kisses. All your kisses. Real spooky boys are spooky all year round. That's true. The true spookies stay spooky. I asked them what was up with the fire, and Chuck mumbled something about not being able to get it relit. This made me chuckle. I walked over to the tree line and grabbed an armful of wood. When I returned, I set it down on the dead coals and blew onto them. The coals lit up brightly, and the fire was roaring again within a few minutes. Then I went to the creek to fetch some water. The look on their faces was priceless. Chuck's jaw was hanging open, and I could tell Glenn was aching to ask me how I did it. While I waited for the water to boil, I cooked up a large mess of eggs and potatoes, and we ate breakfast with a cup of coffee. Once I had eaten, I was feeling much better and suggested that we go fishing. We didn't make it back to camp until almost dark. Unfortunately, no one had caught anything that we could keep, but I could tell Chuck had already caught a good buzz. I cooked what was left of the steak, and after, we set to finishing what was left of the beer. This evening was much tamer than the one before. I didn't want to make a big fire. It would only be harder for me to put it out completely before we left for home. Most of the night, the 3 of us talked about unimportant things like girls and work. Around 2 in the morning, we decided to turn in, the beer long being drunk. My last memory was Chuck going out to take a leak. He had drunk a lot more than Glenn or I. He fell several times trying to get out of his bag, but eventually made it out of the tent. I must have passed out just after that. The next thing I remembered, the sun was already beginning to shine through the trees. I had to pee like crazy, so I fumbled my way to the zipper, trying not to wake the other 2. As I unzipped the tent, a weird burning smell, similar to burned meat, hit me. I figured one or both of the guys were already up and burning our breakfast. I looked behind me, and only Glenn was still asleep. Chuck must have been the one cooking, and he was terrible at it. I crawled out with a smirk on my face and a smart remark for him. I looked up expecting to see my brother burning food, but was met with a sight far more serious and horrible than I could have ever imagined. The fire was burned out, and Chuck was nowhere to be seen. The dawn was still too dim to make out the large object laying across the dead coals. I walked up, within a few steps, and was hit fully by the burning smell. Then all of a sudden, it hit me what I was seeing. Chuck was lying face down across one corner of the cold fire, and he wasn't moving. Without a second thought, I grabbed his body and rolled it over. All I could see was black and smell the terrible burning. Jess Bishops, I'm a huge fan. We need to collab with you and Mr. Nightmare. Yeah, go hit him up. Say, Mr. Nightmare, you need to collaborate with the one, the only, Lessa Reed. Deanna says, been caught up with chat. What story is Joel reading again? I don't care. He can be saying gibberish words as long as he keeps his sexy voice. It's so funny you say that because on my ASMR channel, I literally have a video where I just read gibberish, and some people say somehow it's like very unsettling, which I guess could be true. Some people said that it sounds almost like I'm summoning Cthulhu. Heather with the 10 says, love listening to your voice. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. All I could see was black and smelled the terrible burning. I began yelling for Glenn, and when he didn't answer immediately, I ran into the tent and shook him. He was reluctant at first, but when I yelled, He was reluctant at first, but when I yelled that Chuck was freaking dead, loudly in his face, he jolted upright and asked me to repeat it. All I could do was point toward the remnants of the fire and the horrible vision that sun was making clearer by the minute. He flew from the tent in one quick motion and came almost face to face with the charred body of our dead brother. I stood behind him and silently with my eyes closed. Glenn fell to his knees and started wailing. At that second, I wanted to be anywhere but there. The sound of Glenn's haunting wails and the horrible smell permeating the air was worse than any nightmare I could have ever imagined. A cold breeze was blowing across me, and that was when I first realized that I had peed myself. It didn't matter, though. With every second, the sight became clearer, and I was too terrified to open my eyes. This was not the way I wanted to remember Chuck. I eventually crawled back into the tent and started crying myself. This continued for God knows how long, until I figured I should call 911 and let them know what had happened. They arrived about an hour and a half later. When the coroner left with his body, I summoned up the courage to come out. Glenn was speaking to one of the officers. The smell was still so bad, I began retching and retreated back to the tent. Soon after, another officer joined me inside the tent. We talked about the trips and events of the night before, nothing in particular. He left about 20 minutes later with the remaining officers. I began breaking down camp, and Glenn soon joined me. As we worked, nothing was said between us. I moved as fast as possible, hoping to soon be away from the terrible smell of my brother's burning flesh. Looking back on it now, I'll acknowledge that I may have looked a bit cold and uncaring. In my defense, I was the oldest and had the responsibility of notifying the rest of the family. I knew our mother was going to be crushed, and I wanted to tell her before she heard it from the news. When it comes to Glenn, I can't speak for how he was feeling or what he was thinking. No one has the right to dictate to another how to handle their grief, especially in a circumstance such as this. Telling Mom was as bad as I had imagined. She always wanted a large family. When Dad died, she thought her dream was over. However, when she met my stepfather and he mentioned adoption, she was overjoyed. Chuck and Glenn were actual brothers, about 2 years apart, and in their early teens when Mom found them. Boys their age are usually hard to adopt out, but Mom had fell in love with them at first sight. I always considered them my blood, as did the rest of my family. Glenn and I stayed close to her for some time, knowing how hard Chuck's loss was on her. This was the first instance I began to get the feeling Glenn harbored suspicions towards me. Nothing was said, but I caught him watching me with his usual questioning look many times throughout that month. As the months passed and more questions began to be raised, many more than I care to mention here, I had always assumed Chuck had passed out or tripped or fell into the fire, killing him. He had been much drunker than us. However, when the results came back from the medical examiner, certain things were off. The bruises, for instance. Chuck's back was covered in them. The thing was, Chuck played rugby with some guys from school and had for many years. Also, his skull was fractured. A worrying sign for sure, but even the doctors were forced to admit that things like this happen in a fire. A skull bursts or cracks from the heat. Horrible facts to hear, I agree, but for some reason they have cemented the suspicions in Glenn's mind. No matter how hard I try to show him this is the wrong time to be apart, he convinced himself I had something to do with our brother's death. I've had my own reservations towards Glenn and his relationship with Chuck, more than once. I saw them argue about something, but they stopped whenever I entered the room. I do have my own suspicions. Yes, but now is not the time to fracture the family. Our mother needs us more than ever right now. If she became aware of the distrust between us, it would not only break her heart, it may actually just kill her. For the fuck that up. I got pretty far though, which is pretty funny. Hey, Isaac Robles with the 20. Thank you, Isaac. Holy cow. Making it rain. Thank you, my friend. Just if you meant to add a message to go along with that, because I know sometimes people send in a donation and do not are unable to put a message there, just at me, or I don't know, or do we have any mods here? I don't even think there's any mods here right now, but just do, at Let's Read and let me know what your message is, and I shall eventually see it. Bridget Jones with the 3. She's ooh-wooing. Ooh-woo, Bridget Jones's ooh-woo diary. Thank you, Bridget. JC Drums, what's good, homie? You playing the drums? For the I fucked that up again. Sometimes going back into reading is hard. I don't know why. For the foreseeable future, I'm going to do my best to bring us back together. If not for our mom's sake, perhaps Chuck's. On my own. On my own, I'm going to keep digging into the rift between the two brothers, and if it led to Chuck's death, even if it yields something terrible, truth that I may not want to be aware of, I owe it to him. After all, Chuck was my brother too. It seems so weird. I kept expecting them to say Chuck had a myocardial infarction or a heart attack or something of that nature, like a stroke, but it seems a little strange just being beat over fractured skull and then burning to death or something. I don't know. It's weird. Real Kogod with a 5 says, have you ever considered doing a video about people who have committed murders and confess online anonymously? That sounds kind of interesting. I wonder, I don't even know how I would kind of do that, I guess, hey, there's Brob Ross. Hey, what's up, Brob? Eclipse, thank you. Okay. Yeah, that got real dark. Eclipse, I'm so happy that you have such a big gain on your videos. Thanks. Yes, and don't forget to give this video a like. Jenner says, I'm on the crisis line at work tomorrow, and this is helping me calm down and feel less stressed about it. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I can't imagine what that whole process would entail. No, it's okay, Eclipse. I don't, the way it was phrased, it just says, I'm so happy that you have such a big gain on your videos. It didn't sound like normal English, so I kind of thought it was like a bot or something at first, but now that you said sorry for the spam, realize that you are not, in fact, a robot, but a real human being. Brob thinks I got gains for days. Thank you, Brob. Gains all day, baby. Gains all day. I'm a 17-year-old guy currently living in Phoenix, Arizona. This took place around 6 months ago on an overnight trip into the Superstition. Is that what it's called? Superstition Mountains? Or is it Superstition? Let's see. Superstition. Oh, yeah, Superstition Mountains. You never know with like how places are called. It's funny. You know, it's so interesting. Yeah, the Superstition Mountains, you presume it's like, you know, related to sort of paranormal stuff. But my buddy said that his dad, when he was working, doing some sort of medical, like he was worked in an office, a medical office in like more of a rural, like Native American community. You know, it was very rural, like not a lot of people came in all the time. But he said once in a while, like really late at night, certain Native American individuals would come in that would be like white as a ghost, and they would just be like so terrified that they were trembling but like couldn't speak, and then say that, you know, and then quite a few of them just like would later eventually get to like saying that they had just seen some really fucking scary shit. Plush Nails with the two says, great voice, smooth like butter. Hell yeah, my dude, or my dudette. And Maya B with the 10 says, Joel, thank you so much for doing another stream. I'm gonna head out. Always look forward to these streams. Much love, like always. Thank you, Maya. I do appreciate that. I hope you have a good evening. Where's Brob? Is Brob still here? Brob, I'm gonna make you moderator.
Hey, listen.
You have been randomly selected based on your merit to be moderator. Jordan says, you're seriously my favorite. I love chilling at night and listening to your live streams after my kids go to bed. It's my favorite me time. That's awesome. I'm glad. I'm quite glad you like that, and I'm glad you can get the kids to bed. I hear that can be quite a troublesome experience at times. I usually use the hammer. I got so many dad jokes lined up, I almost like need to have kids, you know? I'm just gonna donate my spermies to a bank, and they'll just like pump me out a kid or something like that.
Listen.
Sir Menaim, I don't know if that's I'm pronouncing it right, but thank you for the 20. It says, eat it from behind, peasants. Holy shit. That's hilarious. Well, thank you. I certainly shall be eating it from behind with that 20. I like to imagine it's kind of just like gently placed between the cheeks, and that's where I will be receiving it. This incident took place around 6 months ago on an overnight trip into the Superstition Mountains, which are about an hour drive east of Phoenix. I'm not going to specify the exact trail because I've been doing this stuff long enough to realize what happens when you post stuff on the internet. Whether it's a good trail, abandoned mine, ghosts, or whatever it may be, people come flocking, and usually with a lot of trash and loud music. Anyway, this particular trail I was taking was an 8-mile loop through a canyon. Pretty simple and out overnight trip. That sounded weird. Pretty simple in and out overnight trip. I had planned to go with my friend, but a last-minute cancel on his part left me on my own. So, with a packed bag and a car ready to go, I decided to go on my own. Not leaving the house on time and some trouble navigating rough forest roads, I didn't arrive to the trailhead until around 5:45, which, for those of you who don't backpack, this is a very big no-no. I had about a 4-mile hike until I arrived at my planned camping spot, and it was getting dark fast, so I figured if I moved quick enough, I could get at least 2 to 3 miles in before I had to find a spot. This strategy left me hiking a very dark trail on my own with about 15 miles of dirt road between me and anyone else. Hiking in the dark by itself is scary, especially for where I was and being on my own. Eventually, it got so dark I could only see where my headlamp was pointing, and that's when I figured I needed to stop and get a camp set up. With only using the headlamp as my light source and trying to move fast, I ended up in a less than ideal spot, but there were some burnt pieces of woods and the remains of a fire circle, so it looked like people had been there before, but definitely not recently. My first priority was to get a fire going. I scanned the area around me and was able to find some dry wood, and I got the fire going. I got my tarp set up and cracked open a can of chili mac I had brought for myself and was very much looking forward to eating. I was feeling good, my camp was set up, and my food was on the fire. The feeling of uneasiness from the hike in had almost gone away, but it was still there, a side effect of camping alone in remote areas. To fully understand what happened, I have to explain to you how my camp was set up. The site I had picked was a small clearing surrounded by large pine trees with a trail about 30 feet to my left. When you're in the woods and have a fire going, the fire casts a circle of light around it, and everything on the edge of that circle and past it are pitch black. I was sitting on the ground near my fire eating my dinner when a small rock about the size of a marble was thrown in my camp. I looked at the tiny rock in shock as I was positive that I was the only person on this trail that night. I immediately turned my light on and towards the area where I had seen the rock come, but due to the density of the pines and brush, I could only see about 10 feet. I spent the next 15 minutes in disbelief as I scanned the tree line that surrounded me, searching for what or whoever had thrown the rock, not daring to stray too far from the fire that in hindsight offered me a false sense of security. After sitting back down and spending the rest of my time on high alert, I was able to convince myself that I had somehow kicked the rock or it had fallen from a tree. I went to sleep that night not expecting the pure terror that was about to unfold. I woke to the sound of rustling leaves, barely audible if you weren't listening for them, but they were there. Still in a sleepy daze, I listened as the rustling of leaves got harder to hear as I assumed they were moving away from me. I went to grab my handheld flashlight that I had left next to me when I had fallen asleep, but the more I looked, the more scared I got as I came to realize that it was no longer there. I stood up in my sleeping bag and ducked out of my tarp and looked around. I was able to see a light off in the woods. It couldn't have been more than 15 feet away. It was my flashlight, lying on the ground in a pile of leaves. This is one of the few moments in my life where I had almost soiled my pants. The flashlight that I had left sitting right next to me when I had fallen asleep a few hours ago was now 15 feet away from me, past the tree line in the woods. I hurriedly slipped my boots on, clutching my knife in my other hand and keeping my head on a swivel. I weighed my options. Stay there and wait out the night, or attempt the 3-mile hike back to the car in the dark. I figured that whatever or whoever was out here with me was definitely going to have a better advantage if I was out on the trail without a light, so I decided to stay at the camp and wait out the night there. Eventually, it came back. I could hear it walking through the woods. It was far off, but I could hear it. It sounded like someone leisurely. Oh, dude, I just thought of a sick video game. What do you guys want to hear it? Sir Menaim with the 5 says, I watch your videos daily after work. Nice, thank you, sir. My good sir. Appreciate that. I'm glad I can keep you daily entertained. But oh yeah, we're almost at 700 people. Keep hitting that like button, dude. Share it out, baby. Share it with the world. Scream it from the mountaintops. Okay, this is my story or my video game idea. So it's a multiplayer game, but basically the other people are ghosts, I guess. And your goal is to, like, well, I don't really know how it would work as far as measurements, but your goal is essentially to scare the other person. And Now, I guess you wouldn't be able to objectively determine whether or not you scared them or not. And I guess it would kind of get old if it just like was a repeating level. But I've definitely had the idea for like a ghost type game for like quite a while where similar to Batman Arkham Asylum where like the enemies would get like more and more afraid as you took more, took them out like one by one. Lils, you've been listening to me for 2 years. Oh my goodness. Happy 2 year anniversary between the two of us. Wink, wink. Um, but like, basically, I just always thought it would be a sick video game where you were a ghost in various different environments, and initially your powers are pretty weak to make people afraid of you. Or to your goal, I think, would be to get people to leave a house, and it might be able to like randomly generate that house, I guess, through like a sort of like Sims building type thing or whatever. Maybe you could even build it yourself, and this could be a Sims mod. Um, no, just you can't take it seriously if you think of the Sims, but basically there would be different, like a ton of like interactability with the house, the different items in the house, and like you could, like as you would start out by like turning on the faucets or something, or like just moving different items around that like kind of weirds people out where they left them. And I guess you could like monitor the family's like interaction with certain items to see if they even notice. And then as their fear meter grows, as they become more and more afraid, and things happen within the family organically or whatever, your ability to scare them actually gets even more even greater, and you could do even crazier shit like now you can turn on the TV and change it, or you could change it from Cartoon Network to, I don't know, a porn channel. Nah, not that matters, but basically you can start doing some crazy shit, maybe even like manifesting yourself to appear. What's going on. Ark, do I read chat? I do. I see you there, my friend. Until eventually your goal is to get people to like abandon the house, you know what I mean? Like, and you could call it like Get Out or something, even though that, I guess that we could think of something cool, but dude, I think that would be a sick game. Low-key has a Lucius vibe. What's Lucius? If I was a ghost, would I scare people on purpose? I always like think about ghosts, and I'm like, and people ask that, like, would you haunt people if you're a ghost and stuff? And like, it just sounds so sad to me. Like, okay, you lived your whole life kind of like not knowing what the fuck is going on, and then all of a sudden now you're dead, and there's like this like a sense of eternity. Now you're just like a ghost, It just seems weird to me. Like, that's what would happen to you. You're just like a ghost and you scare people and that's it. Like, are you trying to get their attention? Like, I don't know. Just a bit odd to me, I suppose. Like, it just seems really pointless, What am I drinking? Just drinking water. Wah wah. Trademark and copy that idea quick. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care if someone steals it because I think they can do it better than me, And at least I could give them the idea. And a lot of people kind of make knockoffs of different genres types anyways, so I definitely think people could make some cool genre types of that. Venus says it's a game about the son of Satan. You gain powers as you terrorize, murder people in the house. Oh, interesting. Yeah, definitely right up the alley. I activated your Google Home for some reason. That's funny. Hey Google, play Highway to Heck. Can't believe you just dissed Ghosts. Sorry, Ghosts. Well, I'm not dissing Ghosts. I'm dissing like whatever sort of overarching process like puts a ghost in that position. Like you don't really get asked to be born, you know what I mean? But you're born and you kind of figure it out as you go. And then what would a ghost doesn't ask to be a ghost, you know what I mean? But then they're all of a sudden a ghost, and then they're just like, what the fuck do I do? I guess I'm pissed that I'm a ghost and no one can see me. Let me start fucking screaming at people and maybe they'll see me, Maybe they've been dead for so long they've lost their goddamn ethereal mind. I activated your Google, that's funny. It sounded like someone leisurely walking by, like they were on a stroll without a care in the world. Sometimes it would walk too far and I would lose the sound of its steps. But then, an hour later, maybe two, it would return, still faint as ever. This went on for 3 or 4 hours until I listened to the steps get closer and closer until they were about 7 feet from me. At this point, the fire had gotten very small as I had run out of wood in my pile. The footsteps stopped and everything went totally silent. I sat there still for 2 hours, clutching my knife in my hand and prayed that I wouldn't hear anything else. I stayed like that until the sun cast enough light that I could see that I was alone in my campsite. I packed my things and sped walked the 3 miles back down the trail that I had taken. I arrived at the empty dirt road where my car was parked and nearly sprinted to it. I arrived at the empty dirt road where my car was parked and nearly sprinted to it as I unlocked my Subaru, jumped in and drove and didn't stop until I had put at least 20 miles between me and that place. I stopped at a gas station in Apache Junction to buy a Red Bull, but mostly just to see or talk to another person. As I exited the store, I read what was written in the dust on the back window of my car. Sleep well. A lot of weird things have happened to me on my various adventures through Arizona, but this is the weirdest and scariest by far, so I thought I'd share. There is a seriously deranged person living in the Superstition Mountains. Do yourself a favor and stay as far away from those mountains as you can. That's pretty creepy. That's pretty creepy. Almost like that mouse boy that came out of my Nintendo DS. And then I fell in love. But then he went off to New York. Shit, this is a long one here. Shit. You're listening on your TV, nice. The big screen. You know, I was kind of worried after all this like COVID shit is done with. Hopefully, fucking someday. I was worried that like movie theaters might not come back. I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but do you think movie theaters just like might not come back? Like they'll go out of business and I don't even know. Like, I mean, you presume it's like such a huge business, like making movies. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like for quite a while, even if they did open up, people would be kind of reluctant to like go sit in a theater and, you know, stick their fingers in foreign holes and, you know, pull out sickness. So like the kind of hysteria that goes around that I feel like would keep people a little away from it for a while, but I don't know what to expect. But yeah, we could do drive-in theaters. That would be dope. Those have died for the most part around where I'm at, so would be kind of sick to see them come back. And then you would everybody be like tricking out their car sound systems so they get the best experience. Dude, that would be pretty sick. That'd be a romantic thing to do with somebody if you just like went to a drive-in movie theater and just you were the only car there, like you just rented it out. That would be awesome. Do I ever get scared by the stories I read? I mean, if I was living these stories, I certainly would be, but I'm not like, as I read them, I'm not like feeling scared, you know, I guess, because I'm not like experiencing them. But if I was experiencing them, I'd be like, if I was, dude, I'm with my friends at a campsite and the fire is like illuminating a circle around us, and my eyes play so many tricks on me that I look at like the circle where the fire's, just dark, where it's like just starting to get dark, and I just always imagine like there's fucking something right there just like chilling by our fire being a creep. Yeah, green turtles, it's a good question. One of those there dirty films. Deb Doug has a question. I have a question. I can't get my phone to play. Third, the HDMI adapter for my TV. Do I need Wi-Fi for that? I can't get my phone to play. Does anybody have an answer to that? So if she has a smartphone, well, obviously a smartphone, but then maybe the TV is connected through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Maybe Bluetooth. I don't know. Can phones be connected to Bluetooth? Um, where you can like stream your video on YouTube to your smart television. I guess it does depend on the HDMI it's going to, but maybe someone can chat with Deb Doug about that. Thankfully, everything on screen is just audible or audio based, but yeah, I'm sure you want to figure that eventually. Okay, so putting this on the table, I'll start by giving you some background on where this takes place. The collection of stories is a bit lengthy. Okay, we'll just go through it. I worked at and live near a summer camp in the northeastern United States that runs from late June to early August every summer. The main attraction of the camp is that it is an overnight camp. Staff and campers arrive on Sunday afternoon and leave Friday evening each week during the camp season, while living isolated in the camp during the week. The camp has many, many cabins used for sleeping, a huge mess hall for meals, and about 10 other buildings ranging from quite large, single-story centers to small supply sheds. The entire camp property stretches for acres and acres and is incredibly beautiful on that lush, cool forest greenway that the Northeast has in the summer. There's everything from big open fields and forests to a large pond full of fish and a long, long stretch of beautiful ravine with lots of exposed shale and wildlife. It is set a good distance off any main roads, and you have to travel up a long driveway to get into the camp. The entire property feels like its own isolated universe. Campers are not allowed to have electronics. Staff can in the evenings and on break. No computers, no cars, and little communication with the outside world apart from what is required for the camp directors. When needed, staff carry walkie-talkies to keep in touch across the expanse of the camp. I went there as a child for 10 years and worked there for 4 years, and it's safe to say I have a whole lot of love for that place. But to anyone who has worked there, you would know that the place has a long and very complex history with the paranormal. I could write a full-length book with all the stories I have heard and have personally experienced there over many, many summers. I'd like to give a good overview of what the place is like as a staff member and share a couple of the more chilling encounters I've had. Many still give me shivers to this day, even though I have been somewhat desensitized to them for a while now. Most of these encounters I'm going to share with you happened between 2014 to 2018, while I was training and working as a counselor. I was between 16 and 20 at the time. Most of the activity would happen at night during the training week and just generally around staff of the camp. Rarely did campers ever come in contact with the entities that lurk within the woods there. Why that is, I honestly couldn't tell you. My memories there as a young girl contained not even a trace of fright or things I couldn't explain. In contrast to that, the experience I had there as a young adult had me nearly in tears. Consistently, there were things that would happen each year without fail. To start, during the training week or after the kids had gone to bed, many of us counselors would lay out under the stars outside the mess hall to unwind for the day. It had a beautiful, clear view of the constellations out over the rec field and onto the hills beyond. Many nights we would see quick, blinking lights moving in erratic patterns, odd meteor showers when there was none predicted in the area, and often see strange red flickering objects deep out in the night sky. And no, these were not planets, as they would often be in the wrong place in the sky and only stick around one evening out of the week. I had a few friends there who had a good understanding of our solar system. I spent many, many nights looking at their utterly baffled faces as they looked at some oddity that had appeared, exclaiming what we were seeing was just simply impossible, despite 10+ witnesses to it happening. Counselors often cannot go an entire summer without experiencing nightmares, many of which include figures standing in the corner of their cabins or at the foot of their bunks. I had these nightmares every year except my first year working there. I would wake in a cold sweat to a quiet cabin and the kids resting peacefully nearby. Screams and voices in the night, carried into camp off the wind from the pond, footsteps pacing around buildings only for there to be no one out of bed, and items disappearing and reappearing in illogical places was all incredibly common. Doors with heavy padlocks would be found open with no one to blame. Occasionally, a counselor would get locked into a building that they were working in, despite no one being around to lock the door. People would walk into this job being complete skeptics and leave believers. Returning staff had to make peace with the things within the camp and just deal with it, and give fair warning to newcomers about the mysteries that seemed to live in the very floorboards of that camp. My first memory of there being anything paranormal within the camp was in 2014. While I was training for my first year as a camp counselor, I remember that all throughout my childhood there had been a singular, flat tombstone that lay on the hill leading down to the camp's pool. It sat right outside the girls' village, the term used for all the cabins where the female campers and counselors slept. It was incredibly odd, so old that the name and dates were unreadable, but the way that the text was formatted made it obvious it was someone's grave. No one could really give a good explanation as to why it was there. Everyone I asked about it simply told me it had been there long before them. My first year there, I remember there being lots of drama concerning the paranormal, but I was too young and not close enough with the older counselors for any of them to share what was going on. But by the end of the year, the tombstone had been removed and no one was allowed to talk about it or mention it if any of the campers asked. I remember thinking to myself that even though the tombstone was gone, someone still lay buried on that hill, no matter how long ago they had been laid to rest. Maybe the camp directors thought that by getting rid of it, they would bring an end to the paranormal activity. However, they were wrong. Alongside the mysterious tombstone, many stories rotated throughout my co-counselor friends and I as the newest staff members. The first stories I was ever told about camp happened during a training week in June of 2014. My friends had gotten on the topic of scary stories, and the older counselors jumped in to have a little fun with us. Side note, counselors at this camp were all given counselor names in our first year. We strictly used those names during the summer to add a little extra fun in for the campers. For the story's purpose, I'll refer to all the people in these stories by their camp names. An older counselor named Gadget was the first to pipe up, telling us about the two famous ghosts of the camp. He told us about the ghost of a boy who could be seen running through the rec field in the streetlights from the dead-end road that ran along the edge of the camp. Gadget told us that he had been hit by a car after running after a ball, and now spent his afterlife running as a shadow through the camp, scaring anyone awake to see him. The second story was that of a woman in white. Under the same streetlights that lit the dead-end road that bordered the camp, a few small houses sat. On some nights, a woman wearing a long, flowing white dress could be seen standing on one of the deck porches. She would spend the night standing and staring up at the camp, and be gone by sunrise. My fellow first-year counselors and I were of course quite scared by this point. It was far past midnight, and we were gathered under the floodlights of a brightly lit pavilion near to the rec field and dead-end road. They had scared us by the end of the storytelling. Luckily, another one of the older counselors, someone who would come to be one of my dearest friends during my time there, called Slag, simply shook his head and furrowed his eyebrows as he watched the older counselors spook us. Later that evening, Slag took me up to the top of the hill that overlooked the rec field and the dead-end road. He could tell how scared I was at the rumors, but from our vantage point, he explained and showed me what Gadget and his friends had been talking about. Down on the rec field, the streetlights caused long, slanting shadows to fall in a sickly yellow onto the grass. On one of the light poles there was an electrical box, and the way the shadow fell onto the grass made the perfect shape of a small child caught mid-step. When I saw it, it made me jump at how realistic it looked. It was no wonder it became popular, as it truly could be mistaken for an actual apparition. Slag also pointed out to me the woman in white. Again, I didn't see her at first, but Slag's description helped. The woman in white was simply an oversized American flag that hung on one of the house's porches. That evening was clear and breezy. The moonlight caused the flag to look milky white, and the wind made it dance slowly around the flagpole just as the dress of an actual woman would float in the breeze. I started to laugh in relief, but Slag's face stayed serious. He went on to explain to me that even though those were merely scary coincidences, we were not alone here. He explained to me some of what I had shared with you, and it made me turn serious as well. That night, my friend and I huddled into the same small bunk out of his newborn fear. We didn't realize it was the beginning of a long road of stories of our own. One of the places in the camp that granted me the most unnerving experiences was a building we referred to as day camp. We had a program where we would bus in the youngest age group of campers, and they would have their own day of camp activities before returning home around 4 p.m. The building was the only two-story building on the property and used to be a house before the camp was built in 1925. The main space had big, beautiful windows that lit in the sunset. The kitchen worked, but was a little run down. The upstairs was a large attic-like room that served as a space to use for activities on the day it rained. Day camp was easily the furthest building from all the others. You had to walk through a stretch of woods on small rocky trails to get there, and oftentimes you couldn't even hear the sounds of other people from the building, and that's saying a lot as there are easily 300 loud, hyper kids and preteens there each week. Day camp never felt right to me. The feeling of the building, shit. Well, I made it pretty far there. I still have a while to go. Holy fucker. Crystal Valerde with the 2 says, I gotta go sadly. Good night, lovely people. Stay safe. Thank you, Crystal. That was a while ago. Sorry if I missed you there, but thank you, thank you. That was a good run, though. Holy shit. Made it pretty far. Now, this is where I constantly mess up like 9 times in a row. Holy shit. Yeah, we're at 750 peeps. Let's keep it going, baby. Day camp never felt right to me. The feeling of the building gave me the Blair Witch Project vibes, something I didn't feel many other places in the camp. I tried never to go there alone, though I did need to close the building by myself occasionally. My body would tense up, and I felt as if something physically pressed down on my skin any time I would walk through there. Every time I turned my back to an empty room, I felt as if an eerie crowd of silent, watchful people stared through me. The boys' village was the nearest cluster of buildings to day camp. Unless day camp was being used in the evening by someone and the lights were on, it was nearly impossible to see the building with a blind eye. The dark brown wood blended into the expanse of woods that hid it from the rest of the camp. Day camp always gets closed down around 4 p.m. after the day campers return home. All the rooms were checked, lights turned off, padlocked back in place and locked until the next morning. My male counselor friends shared with me that every summer, once or twice a week, once the kids had gone to bed and the boys sat outside talking, someone would notice a light on in day camp. And this wasn't simply someone leaving the light on from the day. Sometimes the same counselor who had closed day camp earlier that day would see the lights on in the downstairs, glowing in solidarity through the dark woods. On these nights, the boys would take turns walking down the dark path there and back to get the light, returning shivering and swearing that they will never do that again. My personal experience with day camp came during the summer of 2016. Every summer, the camp performs something called a missing camper drill. This simply prepares counselors for the event that a scared child would run away. Staff could react quickly and to locate and calm them. The drill on a good day is already something that is taken incredibly seriously by all of the staff. The missing camper is randomly chosen. You're alternating sit-ups and push-ups. Nice. Getting swoles during a stream. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I think if you, over time you will build your way up to a normal push-up. You just gotta do it incrementally. I guess like the initial one is like your knees, or it's your knees there on the ground, and then what you can do, I think, I'm not really sure what the next increment exactly is, but what you can do is from like a normal push-up position, if you can get into that like plank and maybe like hold that plank and stuff, that'll help get you stronger. And then kind of like do negatives, where you like slowly lower yourself down to your chest and then kind of like reset. But that'd be a good sort of way to be able to get push-ups down. Yeah, your motivation is to eventually bench press me. If you can pick me up, you have won. Hey Molly, how are you? The missing camper is randomly chosen. The camp... sorry. Have you guys been to summer camp? If so, was it fun? The missing camper is a randomly chosen counselor each training week, and all of the other counselors have to go through the procedure of tracking the child down. To do this, camp is split into sections, and the eldest staff take walkie-talkies, divide up the areas, and sprint around camp looking for the missing camper, shouting their name, looking under and around structures in camp, and checking any locked buildings. The camp director will go around before the drill and do things to throw off the searching counselors too. They'll unlock doors, lock others, move things around, just to get everyone in the mindset of an actual drill. Of course, the area I was given to search, alone may I add, was day camp. As I ran through the woods and towards the looming house, I felt a huge sense of dread fall over me, and I seriously considered not searching it at all and just telling the other staff that I did. With shaking hands, I unlocked the day camp door and walked around inside, calling the name of the girl who was acting as the missing child. The floorboards creaked, and I remember how incredibly silent the whole house felt, apart from my movements. The sun was setting at the time, and creamy orange light fell through the length of the building from the windows. It was so unnatural compared to the busier parts of the camp. I couldn't hear the other counselors searching, not even when I strained my ears. Every room and corner I checked, I braced myself to come face to face with the spirits I saw in my nightmares, the ones I've heard crunching over gravel in the middle of the night, the ones who speak softly in the dark and make even grown men run back into their bunks unnerved. The building was clear. I sighed in relief as I locked the door firmly behind me and headed back outside. The air had begun to get chilly, and I hoped to... One Infinity with a 5. Thank you, Infinity. Appreciate that. Make sure I didn't miss anybody up here. And I think we have a full-grown pizza. In Tim. Thank you, Tim. Welcome, Tim. You have become a member of the Buttersock cult. The air had begun to get chilly, and I hoped to drill... Dang, sorry, this grammatical error has thrown me off. This person actually doing pretty amazing with grammar up until that exact word there. The air had begun to get chilly, and I hoped the drill would be over soon. Searching in the dark would be near impossible, and I knew that Swift, my friend acting as the missing kid, had no desire to creep around camp in the dark either. As I walked past the external cellar doors that led under day camp, I gave them a good shake to check the padlock on them. Locked. This was a location I was previously told I did not need to open or check for this drill, anyways. I went on and searched the woods surrounding the building, found nothing, and reported it on my walkie. I was told to keep double-checking the area until Swift was found and the drill ended. I started walking back, slower this time, as I was fairly positive Swift was over half a mile away on the other side of the camp. As day camp came back into sight through the trees, I froze in confusion and fear. The cellar doors of the day camp cellar were both flung open, and a yellowish light shone from inside. It was just becoming dark enough that the light spilled out and illuminated the space around it, while the shadows of its surroundings only pushed in darker. Never in my previous 3 years working at the camp did I even know those doors even opened. Never did I know that there was even a key for that padlock, nor did I know that there was a working light down there. I was completely stunned. Shivers ran through me, certainly not from the evening chill. "Swift?" I called out, not in the way I would call to a camper, but as I would call her normally. Nothing moved, nothing made a noise. The fear felt cold and numbing in my veins. I crept to the top of the cellar stairs and peered down. The space was lit by a single exposed light bulb, showing me 6 or 7 rotten wood steps and cold-looking stone walls, all broken with age. The floor was dirt, and there were no objects inside the cellar. The sound of my radio going off that Swift had been found nearly made me jump out of my skin. I fell backwards onto my butt in the grass and spent another second staring at the bizarre scene in front of me. I scrambled up and back towards the rest of the camp as quickly as possible. To my surprise, as I arrived back, my friend Amino also appeared visibly shaken and was talking quickly. She was telling us that during the drill, she was walking by one of the maintenance sheds on camp, another location with a padlocked door that we weren't including in the drill. To her surprise, the door started shaking violently against its padlock, much more than any wind or draft could do. Amino fully believed that Swift was trapped. That she was trapped in there as part of the scenario, and quickly found my other friend Handles and got the key to open the shed. As they swung it open, they found no one. In fact, the maintenance man Sparrow hadn't even been to the camp that day, so there was no way anything or anyone could have gotten trapped back there. She was so shaken up, she could barely get her story out. I also told everyone there what I encountered. Everyone looked at us, jarred by our stories, but none were that surprised. "Did anyone open the doors to the day camp cellar as part of the drill?" I asked to some of the senior staff members, and they shook their heads. "Swift wasn't located near either of those spots anyways. She was hiding up past the pond," Wonder, our program director, said. Swift's hiding spot was nearly as far away as day camp was to the rest of the camp, but on the complete opposite side of the property. Everyone was shocked, but there was nothing to be done. The camp directors and senior staff could do little to comfort us because they knew it too. We simply weren't alone. Later that night, my friend Tantor and I returned to day camp to close the cellar and put the padlock back in its place. It hasn't been opened for any reason since then. Day camp continued to be my weakness as I went into my 4th year as a program specialist in 2017. That year, during one of the programs that I ran, my group of campers chose day camp to be our meeting place. I was reluctant at first, but this time I had my friend Ouija with me as my co-counselor. He is someone who I would trust in the Paris catacombs if need ever arose. He was and is incredibly in tune with the paranormal world and is very knowledgeable on how to communicate with it properly in a way that they listen. He explained to me that my hunches about day camp were true, but that there was most likely no place in camp that didn't attract spirits in some form or another. I made sure to always have him nearby instead of day camp. Oops, fuck. Joel, when you find grammatical errors in a story, do you correct it or read it as is? Usually I try to correct it because, just so it sounds better. Also, sorry if I haven't been reading chat a lot. Obviously, I've been reading the story instead. So if you're ever wondering, why isn't he talking to me? It's because I'm dick deep in these spookies. By the end of the summer, I felt like, whatever. I made sure to always have him nearby inside day camp. By the end of the summer, I could almost relax in there. It was as if whatever dwelled there graciously took its eyes off me and let me rest. I realize how long this collection of stories has gone on. In truth, this isn't even half of what I have seen or heard from people I trust, but I'll leave it here for now. Fortunately for myself and anyone who worked at that camp, whatever spirits share that space do not seek to physically harm anyone. They like to be seen, talked about, remembered through stories. They enjoy adding their own mystery to camp. I truly believe they only wish to remain a part of the camp's identity. It is a place with much history. My grandfather went to the same camp as a child himself, and so much energy inhabits that place, I think they cannot help but want to join in. The deep green woods, the aging structures, the ruins and secrets and stories that the camp holds are their home, and anyone who treads there comes to learn and respect that. Camping would be sick. Well, Nuna, if are your campgrounds like closed and stuff? Because I feel like you would imagine camping would be something that's not closed now because it's kind of like outside and it's spread out, you know what I mean? But I have heard that some places were kind of like shut down because of all that. Sophia, you always wanted to be a camp counselor. I think it would be neat. I feel like it would be a lot of responsibility for sure. But yeah, if you saw ghosts, that would definitely freak me out. Hey, we've hit 800 viewers. Which feels pretty good. Pretty good. Victor, first stream. We're doing good. We're 800 people here right now. I guess because the stream has gone on longer, it's allowed the stream to increase in number. Everything is closed. That sucks. I did hear a rumor from a friend that my county might be one of the ones that are going from, because it's red, yellow, and green, designating what businesses can open and things of that nature. And I did hear that there might be a rumor that my county may or may not be going to green tomorrow, which would make me a very happy boy, because I am so sick of this shit. So over it, as you guys have heard me rant many times before. But if we went to green and we could get maybe a barber open, I would be able to get this giant Sasquatch squooch-like beard off of my face. Even though I do like having a big beard, I just think I need a little trim action. Carissa with a 5 says, I listen to your stories before going to bed every night. Nice. Thank you, Carissa. Thank you. Okay. Pradeep is still silently sleeping behind me, which is good. Oh yeah, we haven't sacrificed any tacos recently. Let's get this bread, baby. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories left total. Some of the latter ones are a little bit shorter, and I'm also kind of wondering if they're going to be any good, because some of the shorter stories sometimes are kind of like low effort as well. So, okay. This took place when I was 14 years old, camping in a little area of land in western Maryland where lots of my mom's family had little cabins. This was in the middle of nowhere on private property, and everyone on the mountain was related to us one way or another. We grew up spending the summers around the campfire, telling scary stories and running around with all my cousins. Quick explanation of the layout. Imagine a large capital T for a road. Above the T by 150 feet ran Savage River. If you went left on the T, it would take you past multiple families' houses, but also dense forests that cut off the road. If you went all the way right of the T was my mom's tiny cabin where we stayed. I often went off on my own, preferring it that way. I was about to just do that when my aunt had asked to tag along. She's 14 years older than I am and a big kid. She had pink hair at the time, was covered in tattoos, and was almost 6 feet tall, so not an easily intimidated woman. So I had decided that we'd go all the way to the left into the dense forest, and she's fine with that, admitting she'd come with me so she could smoke a joint and keep out of eyesight of my disapproving grandmother. Now, I was a good kid, and even though she offered me a hit, The thought of drugs still scared me, so I declined. From the end of the road was a super rough dirt path into the woods, with the river still running 150 feet above the path. If you were to walk towards the river, it goes on a downward slope. A few miles in, you actually come across one of those legendary random staircases that lead to nowhere. On this particular day, I had taken the dirt path and had walked down the 150 feet along the river, watching the fish and crawdads scurry by as my aunt got high as a kite, a little bit behind me. I was in my own little world when I suddenly heard a click noise that brought me back to reality. I look up and around, confused. Then my eyes land on some man I had never seen before, standing across the river from me, no more than 15 feet from me. He must have just walked out of the woods on the other side of the river. It's summer, but he's in a black jacket and raggedy jeans and is holding one of those old, cheap, non-digital yellow cameras that you would roll the top and it'd click to be able to take another picture. I was stunned because I had never seen anyone other than my family anywhere around the area in all the years I've been going up here. He smiled at me, then slightly lowered his camera. He was older, probably 40s, and very scruffy, tall and kind of thin. He takes a step forward, and I in turn take a step back. He scrolls the top of the camera and points it directly at me again. I am literally at a loss of words and can only manage to take another step back, almost slipping on a rock as I do. This is when my aunt stumbles through the trees and is in mid-sentence about how much she missed being high when she stopped and stared at the man. I was just staring at her at this point, frozen like a deer in headlights. I slowly turn, and he's not looking at my aunt. He's staring right at me. He clicks the camera again at us, and then he does something that makes my blood run cold and turns the situation from weird to terrifying. He does the tut-tut-tut thing with his finger and points to what looks like a knife sheathed and strapped to his hip, and then points a finger that he slices across his throat. That's the moment I went into autopilot. I spun around and began barreling through the trees, grabbing onto my aunt. My heart pounded as I ran, though I could have sworn I heard one more click before I could hear the splashing from behind me. I almost collapsed because my legs felt like jelly. The river is really deep in parts, but where I had been, we were at a point where the water would have been only thigh deep to a grown man. I tore upwards and ran blindly like a rabbit from a fox. When we saw the stairs, my aunt quickly yanked me to the other side and slid down beside me as we caught our breath. I was wheezing so loud I had to cover my mouth to try to muffle the sound. I peer around, but the trees are so dense, I can't see the river from the stairs, but even with my hammer hard... Fuck. Sorry. Hey, Isaac Robles with another $10 he says, gonna put the phone on the charger and listen while I sleep. Good night, everyone, and be safe. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for your generosity. I do appreciate that. I hope you get some sleepies. Heroin cures the Rona. Internet said so. This is true, but don't do it, because you want to have the Rona to get stronger. I peer around, but the trees are so dense I can't see the river from the stairs, but even with my hammering heartbeat, I hear the snapping of branches, like someone barreling through the forest. Now, I am very, very scared. It's not an easy, straight trail back into my family's property. You have to weave around, and in spots it dips and gets rocky, so you have to do about an S shape to get through. There's random rocks everywhere, and it would be easy to twist an ankle or smack into a tree in my panic. Not to mention we always tread careful and look where we were going because there's so many snakes in that area. I'm sobbing and wheezing badly, and we had another few miles until we even hit the first part of my family's property. My mind is racing, but I know we can't stay. Neither of us had any type of weapon, and staying here was making it harder for me to convince myself to run as paralyzing terror crept in. My legs and arms are already cut up, and before I can decide what to do, my aunt pulls me towards the Sorry, I choked on my spit. Fuck. Choking on my spitties. What is it? Nukin Shio, the ultimate badass furry, says, let's read and I'm trying to find change on the ground. Oh, okay. Good luck, my friend. Red does things, says, I personally take offense to these. Oh, I don't know. If I make a joke and it offends, it's nothing personal. It's just my brother was on that for quite a while, so my humor is certainly a little darker than some, so do not take offense. They are simply jokey jokies. Jokey jokey malokies. Who here wants to hear a jokey jokey maloki? My legs and arms are already cut up, and before I can decide what to do, my aunt pulls me towards the T road, desperately, just stumbling and running. I don't make it more than another mile until I misstep and trip over a branch, tripping and smacking headfirst into a tree. I crumple over and taste blood. I had bit through my lip in the fall. I'm dazed, but my adrenaline is still pumping, so I scramble to a tree as my aunt turns and notices I'm not right behind her. She scrambles back and drops to her knees in front of me, whispering. I'm dazed, but she keeps repeating that we need to keep going. I'm shaking so bad I don't think I can walk, much less run. I have probably another 1.5 miles until I'm on my family's property, but another 2 until we're at an occupied cabin, my grandmother's. My ears are ringing, and I'm hardly paying attention to my aunt's frantic pleas. I completely psych myself out again and keep looking behind me, but I don't see anything. She decides that she's not going to waste any more time because of stupid me and half drags me up and forward. I hobble forward as quick as I can as she continues to pull me too quickly. The rest is a blur until we break through the woods. Most of my family wasn't there at the time, so we only stop when we make it to my grandmother's, and I just run in sobbing. No one locks their doors around there, and my grandma takes one horrified look at me and my aunt, who is equally cut up and scared looking, and yells for my grandfather, who promptly takes over and grabs his rifle. I can't put into sentences what just happened to my aunt taking over, leaving out the part about her being high as a kite. He and my grandmother go cabin to cabin, gathering the men and their guns, as well as warning the women and children about what had just occurred. There's no signal up there, so calling the sheriff really wasn't an option, and to get up to the mountain if they left immediately would take over an hour. It's getting dark. The roads leading up to the property are so windy and steep, you'd have to be out of your mind to try to drive up them in the dark anyway. My mother eventually got word and came over. She took one look at my aunt and said that I had probably just gotten high with her, which in turn made us overly paranoid. And when we saw the random fisherman who was trespassing, we jumped to conclusions and had probably startled him as much as he had startled the... sorry. Hey, Red Jones with the 2 says, hey, buddy. I've told so many people about your page. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, word of mouth definitely really helps. Like, honestly, that's like, I always hear people say, like, I told my whole family, got my whole family hooked on you and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, thank you. Red Jones with another 10 bucker into the winky face. Wink, 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 right back at ya. And Nico with the 2 says, back again while working this overnight. Nice, Nico. Hope things are staying nice and creepy for you. In Portland, they have drive-through strip clubs. That's actually kind of cool. But what do they even do? Do they just, like, stick their butt through the window and just kind of twerk it or something, and then you just leave the money on the counter and drive away? Like, that seems like a very arduous process. I feel like I'd rather just go jerk off at home. Grace Winter with the 10 says, hiya. Hiya. And Venus Flytrap with the 3. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the donos. Thank you, Grace, for the 10 and Venus for the 3. I really do appreciate that, guys. Hope everybody's continuing to have a good night here. We are strolling right along. They let you smell. They let you take a deep whiff of that drive-through. A lot of people, when they go through drive-thrus, they smell the fries. Us, on the other hand, smell the farts bellowing out from their thongs. She took one look at my aunt and said that I'd probably just gotten high with her, which in turn made us overly paranoid, and when we saw the random fisherman who was trespassing, we jumped to conclusions and had probably startled him as much as he had startled us. She continued by saying I probably just imagined he was taking my picture or that he began chasing us, though my aunt had been the one to repeatedly retell the story. My aunt stood up and yelled at my mother, saying that I was a good kid and didn't do anything and that we were telling the truth. They began screaming at each other, and my grandmother made them both stop, telling them both to grow up. Even with the men of my family scouring the woods, they never saw any sign of the man that we had encountered there. Everyone in the mountain locked their doors that night, though, for the first time in a long time. And to this day, all I can wonder is if I am part of some creepy picture collection. But considering what could have happened, maybe if I had been alone like normal, I can live with that. Nico with the 2 says, always see something creepy every night at work. Nice. Yeah, you have to, if any of them are worth sharing, you should definitely submit it, which I think I've said before, guys. If you have a story, send it to reddit.com/r/letsreadofficial. You can make a quick Reddit account on there with an email. You don't even need to verify your email. That's why a lot of people make a lot of anonymous accounts. So make as many anonymous accounts as you like to keep your anonymity safe and secure. And if you don't want to use Reddit or don't really know how or don't care to learn, it's okay. This is a fun website if you can get out of the hive mind parts. But like other than that, there's a email you could send to called Let's Read Submissions, and that's all linked down in the description below. You can email that to me. I just beg of you, please do your best with grammar, and also kind of give me a tidbit of what the story is going to be like in your title of your email or your Reddit story, just so I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. And like with these ones, they're easier to find if like they have certain keywords such as camping or something, you know what I mean? Like it just really helps me to kind of classify them easier for whatever videos I'm going to be doing. Okay, so these next 4 are kind of short compared to the last ones, but they should be a-okay. And if they're not that good, just let me know. These past, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The past 7 ones were actually really solid. These ones are a bit shorter, so I'm curious if they will be good ones. Good. I'm 21 and a type 1 diabetic. When I was around the age of 5 and 6, I would go to this diabetes camp for daytime. My mom would drop me off during the day and pick me up around noon or so. I remember doing lots of activities such as fishing, playing Twister, but one activity we would do sticks out to me most: swimming. This sticks out the most because when I was going to camp around 5 or 6, there was a teen male counselor. I don't remember his name, so we'll just call him Jay. Jay had a split tongue, and every time I was in my swimsuit getting ready to swim, Jay would look at me with such hunger in his eyes. When I would walk past him, as he would be sitting in a booth, he would always say how sexy I looked, and... Actually, let me change that word. When I would walk past him, as he would be sitting in a booth, he would always say how good-looking I looked and would wink at me. Jay would also try to get me to go places with him where no one was around. Now, when I was young, I didn't go off with anyone except for those who I knew. I was a shy, tiny child. One day, while me and my group were swimming, my counselor told me it was time to head inside. I was having a low episode, so I told her no. I am still very feisty when I'm low. And next thing I knew, I woke up in the camp infirmary. I had passed out in the pool from being low, and the lifeguard for the camp got me out and did CPR. When I was walking out, I saw Jay, and He asked me if she did mouth to mouth with me, and that it was hot if the lifeguard did. When my mom got me that day, I told her I didn't want to go back to the camp because I felt homesick. Yes, I did lie, but I felt that if I told her the truth, she wouldn't have believed a kid over an adult. Flash forward to 2019, I told her everything, and she apologized for those things happening and asked why I didn't tell her. I just told her I was too afraid that no one would believe me. I don't know if this man remembers what he did, but I hope he hasn't trapped any other children. Why not sexy? I don't know. I'm like under this interpretation that any word that's like too explicit related to sex, including the word sex, on YouTube's algorithms, that they just pick up on it and immediately like, demonetize the videos, you know what I mean? So you just had to be careful and just sort of dance around it sometimes. Good thing I have a giant thesaurus. That's what she said. I'm really close with my best friend and her family. I mean, we have known each other since we were 2, and we lived on the same street even till this day. Since we have known each other for so long, and we have a lot of stories to share, but today I thought to share this one. When we were 8, she invited me to go camping at a local campground for the weekend, and I desperately wanted to leave my house, so I accepted. When we first got there at around 10 p.m., we thought it would be fun to scare some people by hiding in the bushes and jumping out. It was fun, and we got a few people, and some of them just chuckled and thought we were cute and kept walking. And then we jumped out at this one man, and his reaction startled 8-year-old me because when we jumped out, he didn't get scared. He just looked at us and smiled this really gross, pervy old man smile. Since it was a couple of years ago, it was dark, I couldn't really... Wait, what? Oh, Since it was a couple of years ago, and it was dark and I couldn't really see any distinct features other than he seemed to be a white male in his late 40s, around 6 foot, medium build, and had a strong smell of cigarettes and whiskey, my friend, we'll call her Faith, and I were both kind of weirded out because he didn't say anything for a couple of seconds until he said, "You know, you really shouldn't scare people like that. It's quite naughty." That scared me just because the whole time he was still smiling and staring at us all over. I was frozen, and Faith just grabbed my arm and said sorry to the man, and we ran off. The next day was normal, but when it was sunset, we wanted to run around the campsite and be kids. When we were running around, we heard someone yell, "Yoo-hoo," from up the hill, and so we look up and see no one, so I, without thinking back, yelled, "Yoo-hoo." And then we see someone walk towards us on the hill. You guessed it. It was the man from the night before. I wasn't scared this time. I was in such a good mood, so I let the guy come towards us, and he yells down to us, "Where are your parents?" Which Faith replies, "Oh, they're at the campsite." When he hears that, the grin comes back, and he asks, "Well, it's getting dark, so why don't I walk you back?" We started to get creeped out and said, "Nah, it's okay, it's pretty far away." Which he responds with, "Oh well, I have 2 kids and they have bikes you can borrow up at my campsite. Why don't you come with me and I'll show you?" I was scared and all I wanted to do was go back, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings, being as naive as I was, so I accepted, and Faith and I started to walk up behind the man with him, as he looked back every few seconds with that grin to make sure we were still following. After about 30 seconds, we got to his campsite, and we looked around and saw no trace of kids, let alone bikes. This was a huge red flag. He says to wait outside of his trailer while he gets something. I look at Faith and tell her that we have to hide since there's no way we can run back to our parents fast enough, so we book it to the bushes. After about a minute, I see him swing open the trailer door and come outside with not bikes, but duct tape. This sight chilled me to the bone. Even though I was young, my mom and dad have told me about all the scary things that have happened to kids when they wander away. I would always watch murder shows with my dad and had seen an episode when someone was tied up with duct tape. I started to freak out when I see his face change from that disgusting grin to pure anger. He looks around, even right past me and Faith crouched down in a bush. After no luck, he charges back inside, and I grab Faith and we both run all the way back. We were too scared to tell our parents, so we just went straight to bed. We went home the next day and didn't talk about it until a couple of days ago when it popped in my head. Nothing came from this experience other than years of nightmares. Duct tape. I've brought out a duct tape bike. I was hoping maybe I could fashion one for y'all. Steal those kids' bikes. Bob Ross is here finally. He's here to mod the place. As soon as I made a mod, he just abandoned me. He's like, I don't need this shit. I don't need this shit, bro. Duct tape is sexy. Oh my god. Duct tape is sexy. I want my woman to be covered in duct tape. Here, sweetie, I made you this duct tape bracelet. I just had to wrap it around you. Mary Jane, you always take my mind off of things and make me feel better. Thank you so much. You are welcome. Love you too. Thank you. Bob Ross is here to kick names and take ass. Here to kick names and take it in the butt. To give you an image of me, I'm a small girl, 4'11". What? 4'11" long. That's funny. I'm a small girl. I'm 4'11" long. Hey guys, how long are you? Are you 4'11" long? To give you an image, I'm a small girl, 4'11", and I live in the Netherlands. I've lived in many places since I've moved already from a very young age and never really stayed anywhere longer than 3 years. I met a lot of people on dating apps. Surprisingly, this wasn't one from... I met a lot of people on dating apps. Surprisingly, this one wasn't from a dating app. One day I got the friend suggestion of my date on Facebook. He lived near a place I had lived in Belgium, and his face looked familiar, so I added him. We started talking, first because I thought he was a friend of mine from when I lived in Belgium, and when I found out he wasn't who I thought he was, we quickly found topics we both liked, the many mutual friends we had, drinks, and music since we were both into metal. Now, to give you a picture of my life at the time, I have a 3-room apartment, and I had 1 cat at that moment. I shared my apartment with a girl I thought was a friend of mine, but we weren't on good terms at that moment, and instead of stepping my foot down and give her the choice to leave my house... God damn it, sorry. The grammar is just like really awkward right now. Anna with a 5 says fetishized tape is better. Fetishized? Fetishized tape is better, only sticks to itself. Oh, nice. You got the pro goods. The stuff they put on houses so you ain't getting away. Jessa, you're welcome. You're welcome to the depths of your soul. Be right back, Mom yelling says, I just had sex and I'm about to eat nachos. Hell yeah, dude. Nothing better after sex than just ravishing yourself with a plate of nachos. You better tell us what's on those nachos. That's what I really care about. But we weren't on good terms at that moment, and instead of stepping my foot down and give her the ultimatum to leave my house if she acted the way she did or to respect me in my own home, I decided I preferred going away myself for whatever reason I could find. In the end, I did give her that choice, but that's a story for another time. Since I was in a situation of not feeling welcome due to the behavior of my housemate, I asked if it would be a nice idea to meet up. It was only 2 hours traveling, and it was a great excuse to be away for a little while. He told me he had plans to go camping with a friend that weekend, and since I had never been camping before, and there would be another friend, it seemed like a nice idea. That Thursday I left, and the first night would camping. Sex, nachos, and let's read. What else can you ask for? That Thursday I left, and the first night we would camp in the backyard of his friends to leave the next day to the woods to do the rest of the camping. By this point, we had been talking for about 2 months, and I liked talking with him so far. He seemed interested in me, and since we had so many friends in common, I thought I had a good idea of how he would be. Sadly, I was very disappointed once I arrived. From the friendly metalhead who could make me laugh with nothing left, he was acting from the minute I arrived as if he was annoyed with me. I didn't walk fast enough. He would walk fast in front of me and seemed annoyed by my attempts to talk and let him laugh. Once we arrived at his friend's place, we unpacked our stuff. We ate inside his friend's house where the entire family of his friend was, and they were all very friendly and welcoming. When we would go to the bar, my date would have his shift that night of his... Wait, what? Fuck. See, these are the ones that are tough to read when they're just struggle on the strugel bus of grammar. Rosie, thank you. Peace from the Middle East. Gaming XR, love your stories, man. Long pilations get me through the workdays. Nice, yeah. You should download the podcast, or find me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you do podcasts, because those are all long compilation videos. When we would go to the bar, this is confusing. When we would go to the bar, my date would have his shift that night. His friend and I came along. Usually I always watch my drink. I keep my hand on if I want to talk with someone and finish it before. Soon I found a few people to talk with. I found my way back, blah, 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 because next thing... I don't know. I don't really want to read this story anymore. I know that sounds bad. But I don't know. The grammar's like fucking me up right now, and the next one will be the 10th story anyways, so... And I think I kind of skimmed through this one earlier, and it kind of has like a really anticlimactic ending anyways, so I'm just going to say into the mic, do not read the rest of the story. We're going to move on. Okay. Just so I can delete that. I don't know. It just wasn't hitting me, and I think I read most of it, and it was just turned out to be like this really weird... Hey, there's Robin. Robin, my boy. Christopher Robin. How are you? How are you? Good eye to you. Tuskina said you'll give me $10 for a nice steamy beard pic. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of those on Discord. If you guys would like to see my grill, you gotta go to the selfies tab and then click the pinned messages, and you will stumble across the big steamy beard pics. This is the story of my first and last camping experience. I was 16 at the time, and my family, my mother, sister, and brother, had made plans to go camping with our aunt, uncle, and 2 cousins over the weekend. This was my family's first real camping trip, while my cousins, aunt, and uncle had gone camping dozens of times. Our first afternoon and evening of camping actually went quite well. I surprisingly had a lot of fun. It was later that night, maybe at around 10:30 or so, my cousins, my sister, and myself were settling into our tent. We were lying in our makeshift bed when we heard footsteps circling around our tent. Slightly alarmed by this, we sat up and noticed that whoever was outside circling our tent was holding what we assumed to be a stick and tracing the tent as they circled it. At one point, my sister sticks her hand out and feels a leg through the tent's fabric. We knew it wasn't our mom, as she had a trach and her breathing is very deep and distinct. It wasn't our brother because he was only 5 at the time, and we heard a grown adult's footsteps. Our cousin informed us that it was probably their dad, who always liked to play pranks, especially at night. We decided to look out the small window of the tent, which gave us a view that looked towards the road located by our campsite. On the road was my uncle and aunt walking back from the restrooms. My cousins, sister, and I started to connect the dots. Whoever was outside circling our tent wasn't a member of our family. It was some complete stranger, and all that separated us from that individual was a thin layer of fabric. As our uncle and aunt approached our campsite, we called them over to our tent and told them what had happened. Everything stopped after we talked to our aunt and uncle. We assumed that the individual ran away when our aunt and uncle approached our campsite. My cousins and sister were still understandably freaked out about what had just happened. I, on the other hand, was so tired I wasn't able to process what had happened and how scary it actually was. The rest of the trip went seemingly well, and I enjoyed the rest as much as I possibly could. The worst part of it all is that nobody really believed us. In fact, our aunt, uncle, and mother made fun of us and told us that we were being paranoid, as my cousin, sister, and I love everything creepy from conspiracy theories to urban legends. It still bothers me all this time later because I never found out who that individual was or what their intentions were. I also think about what would have happened if our aunt or uncle didn't come when they did. It's not like we'd be able to defend ourselves, as we were just 4 teenage girls. Ever since then, I have been turned off by camping, and I don't ever see myself going, ever, again. We have reached 835 human beings in the chat here, which is pretty dope. Dawn says, Joel, you're not on form tonight. Why? You missed, dude, the one story I was fucking, I made it like, I think I didn't make a mistake for like, I don't know, I guess you guys were here. How long was it? I think I was reading for like 15 minutes straight and didn't make a single mistake, which honestly really is kick-ass for editing. Xandros, I'm glad I can make your quarantine a little bit better here. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
Hey, listen.
I literally know nothing. 841 on your end, nice. Don't assume your species. I'm sorry if you're a cat lady. Joshua with the 5 says you were amazing, Jays. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. I try my bad. Jenner, you're sad, but your bod is not. You're a sweaty girl for all the wrong reasons. Isaac, you woke back up. Well, welcome. Welcome to the last story. We had to skip one, which will be 10 total stories. Lila, you got a computer for your channel. Nice. That's a nice little graduation present, I bet. Has anyone here graduated, like high school during this COVID thing where they're like essentially just kind of like doing a ceremony in their house or out in their yard? I feel really bad about that just because I feel like, I mean, graduation is boring as fuck, but I mean, it's still like kind of cool because it's just nice to see everybody and like, it's nice to like just everybody to go get food afterwards and you're just like all having a good time, and then there's graduation parties you go to and all that kind of shit. So it fucking sucks that, I don't know, have secret parties. Just have secret parties. Who cares? Or you can do Zoom parties. We're having a Zoom party. Stephanie, some of my stories give you nightmares. I'm sorry to hear that. But nightmares sometimes can be kind of fun. Okay, let's read this outro. Shalleth we read the stories? Oh, that's nice, Jenner. Your half-sister graduated. Some people in the neighborhood made a stage in their yard. Hey, Google, turn off my bedroom TV. Hopefully that works, Isaac. Hey, Google, play heavy metal. Just kidding. Just kidding, Google. Just kidding. Hey, happy birthday. Josh with another 5 says bachelor's in criminal justice. Oh, nice. Nice. Well, congratulations on that. Are you going into the academy, perhaps? Mayhaps? Or going further? guys, think of something funny to say at the end of the video. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let'sReadOfficial, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access on all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all these stories in long compilation form and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. All the links are down below. Thanks so much, friends, and remember. Turn Google on for the outro. That would be good. What should I say? What should I tell? Thanks so much, friends, and remember. Hey, Google. Turn on the heavy metal. No socks without butter. I didn't quite get that. I'm sorry, Let's Read. I didn't quite get that. Good night, Tiffany. Good night. Oh, your name is Jenna. Okay, that doesn't make it easier. Jenner. Though I do call my friend, I have a friend named Jenna who I call Jenner. Jenner. Kangaroos cannot jump backwards. Did a whole Zoom graduation with your family. We're supposed to have an actual graduation June 18th, which is nice. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you have an actual one, that would be dope. Probably if they're kind of like spacing it out and got it all planned out, that's good. I'm glad some people... Okay, there it is, yeah. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, hey Google, play Justin Bieber. Boom, that's it right there. That's the quality disturbance we have been looking for. Your son's name is Joel. Nice. Doot. Doot. You're welcome, guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much for another amazing stream. Did we actually do Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday this week? That's a pretty sure that's a solid. Pretty sure that's a solid ass week of strammin'. And you guys were here to help me through it, and I appreciate it. And Joel is 4'11 long. I'm 4'11 long, baby. Hey Google, flick all the lights on and off like a poltergeist. Favorite music genre? Well, I'm actually in my outro music. You can hear some of my favorite music. It's one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite artists. It's kind of a weird spelling. It's called Peaks J 1994 by Kettle. And yeah, guys, just so you know, this video will be out tomorrow, or actually today, since it's past midnight for the East Coast fam, represent. But yeah, it'll be out at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be released first on Patreon. It's only $1 a month if you want to get early access on there. And you know the spiel. Go follow, go join my Discord if you guys want to have more of an interaction with the community, just like this chat really, but like on Discord 24/7, which is cool. You can share art and talk about different topics and interact with me. Maybe, you know, catch me in the voice chat once in a while, you know. So that would be cool. And yeah, go follow my Instagram, my Twitter. Twitter is Let's Read Creepy. Instagram is Let's Read.official. Go follow my meme page at Horny Computer. That one's special to my heart. But yeah, guys, much love to you. Robin, thank you again for making that thumbnail and helping my ass out during this for this VPN advertisement. It's gonna be the shizniz. Okay, Google, let's get spooky. Okay, Google, let's end this stream. All right, peace, guys. I will see you again quite soon.